Dawn bled slowly across the skies of Winterfell, a pale wash of rose and slate that seemed to hesitate at the battlements before spilling down upon the gray-brown courtyards and snow-rimmed rooftops. The godswoods still slept under a veil of frost, and the hot spring mists drifting from the moat curled upward like ghostly ribbons. Somewhere beyond the broken fields, a lone direwolf answered the morning with a languid, throaty howl, neither challenge nor lament, merely a sentinel's acknowledgement that the wheel of night had turned once more. Crows perched along the stone ring wall, their coal feathers fluffed against the chill, each waiting for the first stir of human life that would scatter crumbs and entrails. In that last hush of unclaimed silence, the air felt fuller, as though it carried the secret weight of things yet unsaid, things that might steer the shape of future seasons. Bran Stark, son of Lord Eddard, roused early from restless dreams. He had not meant to rise before the castle horn. Indeed, he had fallen asleep promising Maester Luwin that he would rest the night without climbing, without fret, without further visions. Yet dreams did as they pleased. In the fading darkness he had seen a swirl of green and white light, the flutter of corvid wings, and the curved blade of a dagger, flashing brighter than moonsilver. A voice, his own, the crows, whispered treachery. Bran could not name the place of the dream, but the echo of it gnawed at him like a rat unseen inside the grain. So he slipped from bed, mind trembling with certainty though he lacked the words to prison it, and he dressed in wool and furs that bore the faint, comforting smell of smoke from the great hall. The corridors outside his chamber were nearly empty, save for the sconces that guttered low, their fat, half-burned candles resembling melted bones. Bran padded to the top of the spiral stairs, one hand firm on the cold rough stone. He should have been cautious. His mother still forbade him to climb lest another accident steal away what strength remained in his legs. Yet the impulse to see the sky, no, to see his father, pressed on him with a thrum that he could not deny. Today, after the midday meal, Lord Eddard would ride south to serve as Hand of the King. Winterfell would surrender its center then. The laughter of the younger Starks would linger, and Robb would bear the weight of elder son. But Ned himself would vanish toward the angry, plotting heart of Westeros. Bran felt that absence already, cold as winter water. By the time he reached the second level, light had begun to seep through arrow slits, staining the flagstones faintly gold. He moved past tapestries that told the deeds of Bran the Builder, giant shapes stitched beside mortal kings, and he whispered an apology to his namesake for ignoring the banister of reason. Bran halted at an arched window whose shutters stood ajar. The courtyard below spread wide and empty except for 3 stable boys dragging straw bales and a pair of armory squires clanging swords from a rack. Bran leaned forward to breathe the crystalline morning. There, at the far gate, he spied his father in a cloak of wolf fur, speaking with Sir Roderick Castle. Their conversation looked solemn, punctuated by steady nods. Bran watched Ned's mouth shape words he could not hear, and in that mute tableau he saw the outlines of his dream again. A curved dagger, a low whisper, the turn of a man he had once trusted. Bran's knuckles whitened on the sill. He had to speak. He did not fully grasp the thing he carried, but he felt with the unerring conviction of childhood that if he stayed silent, some darkness would unfurl. Maester Luwin often talked of instincts, of the old gods sending ripples into the waking world through seeds planted in sleep. Bran's dreams had grown stranger since his fall. Even the 3-eyed crow he once half imagined seemed close at times, as though perched just behind the rafters of his chamber. Perhaps, Bran thought, the gods meant him to act. He descended the rest of the stairs too quickly, limping with haste, his legs protesting. At the base, a guard in Stark livery greeted him with surprise and a half-bow, offering an arm that Bran waved away. He slipped through the great hall, still strewn with overturned benches and half-burned torches left from the night's revel. The smell of roasted boar clung to the air like a stubborn guest, mingling with the sharper tang of spilled ale and the faint spice of Dornish wine. Bran threaded among the tables, his boots leaving small wet imprints where melted snow had seeped through a crack in a window high above. Outside, the morning had grown bolder. The low sun cast long, finger-thin shadows over the packed earth yard. Bran located his father near the forge, where sparks leapt at each hammer fall. Ned Stark's gray eyes were on the blacksmith's work, yet his thoughts seemed elsewhere. The crease between his brows, that subtle iron line, told Bran he weighed matters far heavier than horseshoes. Robb stood beside him, tall and impatient, gesturing at the new chainmail they had commissioned for the southern journey. Bran drew breath. Tasting smithy smoke, tasting ash, tasting the acid pang of looming farewell. His legs quivered. He steadied himself on a post before stepping forward. "Father!" Bran called, and the hammer song faltered as both men turned. Ned's face softened when he saw his son, though a flick of surprise crossed his eyes. Bran was not expected before breakfast. Robb's smile greeted him unabashed, but a shadow of worry knitted his features. He knew the strain such exertion cost his brother. Bran reached them and tried to stand straight, though the weakness in his left leg tugged him off balance. "You should be resting," Ned said gently. Bran shook his head. "I had a dream," he faltered, glancing at Robb, who raised an eyebrow. Dreams were common currency among the Stark children, oft shared over bread yet rarely brought to the yard where iron waited. Bran clasped his hands to still their tremor. "I saw a dagger, and a bird of black feathers, and a man you trust. He means you harm, father." Ned looked at his son as though measuring the dream's shape behind his eyes. The quiet clamor of the yard receded for Bran until only forge bellows and the rush of his blood remained. Ned crouched so their faces met level, the Lord's cloak pooling on the ground. "What man?" he asked. Bran's throat felt lined with snow. He opened his mouth, expecting to find the name perched there. Littlefinger, the whispering serpent of courts far away, yet hesitation cracked his voice. He had never spoken with Lord Petter Baelish. Only once had he glimpsed the man, years back, when the court visited Winterfell. Littlefinger had drunk pale wine, laughing in a tight circle with Queen Cersei's ladies. That memory now glistened sinister where once it had meant nothing. Bran swallowed. "The one they call Littlefinger." Ned's gaze narrowed, though his tone remained even. "How do you know this?" "I don't." Bran's cheeks burned. "Only the dream, but it felt like falling, only I knew what waited at the bottom." Robb shifted, troubled. "Dreams aren't always prophecy, little brother." Bran wanted to snap that this one was. The certainty lived in his marrow, but he only said, "I had the same taste in my mouth as when the crow speaks." Ned studied him a moment longer, then placed a hand upon Bran's small cold shoulder. "I will remember," he promised, voice low, so only they could hear. "Go see Maester Luwin. Have him brew you something warm. We are Starks. We do not ignore omens, yet we weigh them with care." He stood, nodding to Robb. "See him safely back." Bran could tell his father believed him enough to consider but not enough to be alarmed. Somehow that pierced deeper than disbelief. Robb guided him toward the keep, though Bran's feet dragged. Over his shoulder he saw Ned again bending to the blacksmith's anvil, but the crease between his brows had deepened. Maester Luwin fussed when they arrived, insisting Bran sit by the hearth while he prodded for fever, then made him sip willow tea that tasted of bark and regret. Bran told the maester the dream in fuller detail. The dagger's hilt shaped like a claw, the sapphire glint in its pommel, the crow's caw that sounded like laughter. Luwin hummed thoughtfully, fingers worrying the chain at his throat, and asked if Bran had perhaps glimpsed such a dagger in the armory catalogues. Bran swore he had not. The maester jotted notes onto parchment, covered in crabbed runes. "Dreams may be messages," Luwin acknowledged, "or they may be echoes of fears already lodged within us. You fear losing your father, aye? And Littlefinger is a name whispered in corridors whenever treachery is discussed. That could seed a dream. Knuckle or doesn't. But why the dagger?" Bran pressed. "And why now?" Luwin sighed, letting the quill rest. "I do not know. Yet your father is wise, and he will go south with eyes open. Sometimes sharing a fear is safety enough." Bran was not satisfied, but the tea dulled his inner clamor. He asked Luwin if ravens ever dreamed. The maester laughed softly, then fetched an old leather-bound treatise on augury to read while Bran rested. Outside the window, snowflakes drifted in lazy measure. though the sky overhead shone blue. A brief, gentle flurry, nothing more. Bran's gaze lingered on the flakes, thinking them like petals from a different world. By midday, the bustle of departure awoke every corner of Winterfell. Wagons groaned beneath woven chests, casks of salted venison, sheaves of parchment, and bundles of warm cloaks. Stable hands led out coursers, their breath steaming. Ned ate a quiet meal with Catelyn and the children beside the hearth in the smaller solar, away from the roar of the main hall. Bran saw his father's eyes flick to him across the table, lingering on him more than on Sansa twirling a strand of auburn hair, or Arya fidgeting with impatience. The dream had lodged in Ned's mind as surely as in Bran's, though the Lord were his concern as lightly as newly forged mail. The farewell hour arrived, raw and bright. Snow had ceased, leaving the courtyard swept clean save for frosted puddles that mirrored the sky. House banners hung limp in the still air, stark gray against the ramparts. Ned's party mustered before the gatehouse. Sir Roderick in polished steel, 24 guards, several wagons, and the girls, each cloaked in matching gray, though Sansa's hood was lined with soft red velvet. Catelyn clasped her husband's hands, murmuring words Bran could not hear. Jon Snow lingered near the stables, half-shadowed, his expression drawn tight. He was bound for the wall soon, but not with them. Theon Greyjoy joked in half-voice with stable boys, yet his eyes darted toward Ned, measuring some private calculation. Bran rolled forward in his chair, pushed by Hodor, the gentle giant who bore him often these days. The chair's wheels gritted over the stone. Bran's heart hammered. If he was to speak again, it must be now. Yet as they reached the gathering, he found his throat locked. Ned bent to offer Bran a last embrace. The man smelled of horse, leather, and the clean edge of northern air. "Remember," Bran whispered, hand clutching the fur at his father's collar, "the dagger." Ned met his gaze. "I will." Catelyn touched Bran's hair, murmuring soothingly. She would remain at Winterfell with her sons and younger daughter, though Bran sensed her spirit had followed Ned already. The gate chains rattled. The portcullis groaned upward. Hooves scraped. Robb rode beside the column for a time, escorting them to the King's Road's first fort. Bran watched until the last banners dwindled between leafless birch trees, until only churned snow and a hush remained. Afternoon deepened into blue-gray dusk. Bran returned to the Godswood, his chair bumped along flagstones by Hodor's strong arms. Under the red leaves of the weirwood, Bran felt the old gods listening. He laid a trembling hand upon the white bark. Sap that smelled of blood and earth seeped faintly from a fresh fissure in the trunk. Bran closed his eyes. Images fluttered. Ravens wheeling above a sea of red roofs, a golden lion snarling on a crimson mount, and through it all the curved dagger glinting as though thirsty for grief. He whispered a plea that soundless winds might carry to Ned across leagues. "Beware the smiling spider." That night, Bran slept fitfully. He dreamed again. Now he stood not in Winterfell, but in a great hall draped with silk and heat, the hearthstone carved in the likeness of a roaring lion. Candles dripped upon polished marble, each flame bent low as if bowing before unseen royalty. Littlefinger stepped from shadow, the dagger in one hand, its edge filming the candlelight. He smiled. Thin, pleasant, practiced. At the far end of the hall, Ned Stark knelt before King Robert. Yet where Robert should have been sat, an empty throne. Bran called out, but his voice emerged as Crowcaw's. Littlefinger touched a finger to his lips, then flicked the dagger so it spun end over end, slow as drifting snow. Ned lifted his head. The blade traced its arc, silver whisper through air, and Bran reached, but his arms now feathered into wings, and the crown of the weirwood blotted his sight. He woke drenched in sweat. Morning after morning, the dreams persisted. Some days, the dagger pierced new throats. Varys, wearing a look of sorrowful resignation. Sir Jaime, laughing as blood blossomed on his breast. Once, even King Robert. Always Littlefinger's approval glimmered like a coin in the dark. Bran chronicled each dream with Master Luwin, who added entries to a growing sheaf. The Maester encouraged Bran to focus on his healing, on strengthening legs with gentle exercises. Yet even exercise became tainted by these visions. Bran felt as though each faltering step might echo through his father's fate. Letters arrived from the south along Raven's wings. One sealed in pristine wax bearing the direwolf. One smudged by rain. Another late by 2 weeks because a storm had shattered the rookery at Moat Cailin. Ned wrote of the king's boisterous mood, of tournaments proposed to celebrate the hand's arrival, of the city's stench. He mentioned Littlefinger but once, in passing. A note that the master of coin handled many of the kingdom's books with nimble fingers, but that his advice must be sifted for humor. Maester Luwin received separate dispatches absorbing more precise accounts. The treasury's debt, the small council's fractious nature, the endless feasts. Yet nowhere did Ned speak of danger. Still, Bran's worry grew, and he was not alone. Catelyn paced castle walls at dawn, eyes upon the southern horizon. Though she smiled when Bran met her in the great hall, he could sense her unease. She had once confessed to Robb she dreamed of lions creeping into the godswood. She wrote Ned extra letters urging caution, but seldom spoke of her fears lest she burden the children. Arya began to train more fiercely with her wooden sword, as though each swing might defend a father too distant to feel. Rickon, young and confused, woke some nights crying for both parents. A moon passed. Snow melted into lingering mud as false spring flirted across the north. On one crisp afternoon, Maester Luwin summoned Bran to the rookery. A raven from King's Landing had arrived, black wings exhausted, scroll bound tightly. Bran came with Hodor's help, climbing the winding outer stairs that led to the rookery's high chamber, each breath frosting in the colder height. The rookery smelled of guano, pine pitch, and ink. Cages clattered softly as ravens ruffled at the intrusion. Luwin's face bore deeply etched lines when Bran entered. He motioned him closer. The scroll lay unfurled upon a desk blotched with ink. Bran read, struggling over each southern flourish. At first he saw only lines about jousting, trifling disputes in the city watch. Then his eye caught a name, Petyr Baelish. Beside it Ned's words, "Do not trust, for he changes colors with the wind." Bran's heart vaulted. Below, in cramped script as though written at dawn with nerves raw, Ned had added, "I begin to suspect the coin pays more than one debt. Yet proof remains slippery as an eel. Remain patient. But if the gods send further guidance through Bran's dreams, record them well." Bran stared. His father had listened. The dream had taken root in Ned's thinking. Relief fluttered inside him, the feeling of having caught a stumbling man by the arm at the precipice. Yet fear soon followed, for suspicion alone could stir hornets if voiced without armor of evidence. Luwin laid a hand on Bran's shoulder. "Your father becomes cautious," the maester said. "That is good. But caution is no shield against every blade." Bran answered almost in a whisper. "Then the dreams must give him more." Luwin frowned gently. Dreams come of their own accord. To demand more from them is like demanding the sunrise hurry. "Then, sir." Bran returned to his chamber with thoughts spiraling. He recalled the crow again, how its third eye in older dreams had shown him the world behind the world. If the crow wished to speak, Bran must find the courage to listen deeper. That night he begged old Nan for tales of greenseers, until sleep tugged him into hidden currents. The dream that followed opened upon a courtyard ringed by broken pillars. Moss draped the stones, pale mushrooms glowed faintly. Moonlight pooled like water. In the center stood the weirwood, yet its heart face bore no features, a blank white mask. Bran walked closer. Beneath its roots lay the dagger, half buried in black soil, sapphire burning fiercely in the pommel. When he reached for it, the soil liquefied, swallowing the blade. Wind rose, carrying voices, whispers of courtiers, of merchants, of lovers in dark alcoves. Over them all rode Littlefinger's voice silken. "Information is the coin, boy, and I mean it freely." Bran spun, but saw only branching shadows. A distant bell tolled. The sky turned crimson. Bran shouted for the crow. Wings thundered overhead, yet instead of the crow, 3 direwolves materialized, coats bristling silver beneath the red glow. They formed a triangle around Bran, guarding him from something unseen. Their eyes, one gold, one gray, one deep amber, fixed upon him with grave intelligence. Then, as though on a silent command, they lifted their snouts and howled. The cry did not sound of grief or triumph, but of warning sharpened by love. It rang until the roots quivered and the faceless weirwood cracked open to reveal a single bleeding eye within the white wood. A mirror of Bran's own. He jerked awake, heart hammering, dawn barely pricking the shutter cracks. He ordered Hodor to bear him to the maester at once. They skidded through corridors, startling servants. Luwin listened earnestly, face paler with each word. 3 wolves, he murmured. 3 children of the north? Or 3 fates? Bran insisted the message must be sent south without delay, though he struggled to articulate any concrete threat. Luwin penned a careful summary, sealing the parchment with a dark smear of wax. As the raven took flight, Bran watched its black wings diminish against the slate sky, wondering if the old gods could ride beyond the neck, swifter than rumor. Meanwhile, at the edge of the King's Road where snow gave way to grass, a smaller column rode north. Catelyn Stark, sworn to secrecy, had slipped from Winterfell only 2 days past, leaving Robb in command. She carried with her a singular purpose: to confront her husband with suspicions that had crystallized into belief. Though Bran would not learn of it until later, the blade of Valyrian steel shaped like a dragon-talon dagger rested inside Catelyn's leather satchel. It was not the dagger from Bran's dream. The pommel lacked sapphire. But she thought it proof of some southern conspiracy. The irony of 2 different blades weaving new strands sat heavy in the loom of fate. In Winterfell, Bran sank deeper into study. At Luwin's prompting, he began reading the Annals of the Green Men, a brittle tome whose pages flaked like onion skin. He traced tales of far-seeing children who could slip between crow wings and direwolf eyes. One margin bore the faint scrawl of some long-dead maester: "To dream true is to hold a candle in a storm. The trick is knowing when to shield the flame and when to let it guide." Bran read that line many times, feeling a strange kinship with the unknown writer. Each reading sharpened his resolve. Days passed, ravens flitted. The broken courtship between dream and waking world stretched taut. Bran no longer feared the dreams. He began instead to prepare for them. At dusk he would breathe the cold night air until his lungs sang, then sit beneath the weirwood, chanting old words old Nan taught him. He felt the tree listen, its sap a slow heartbeat. The direwolves visited too. Summer and gray wind at times brushed past, hacking boar bones near the pool, while Bran muttered secrets to their fur. On a night raked by winds, Bran slipped deeply, beyond the first veil. He found himself on a balcony overlooking King's Landing's narrow streets, rooftops glimmering like scales under lanterns. The wind tasted of salt and forjic smoke. Below, in a secluded courtyard of the Red Keep, Lord Petyr Baelish spoke with a girl in striped silks. Their words floated up, muffled. Bran leaned over the rail. The girl's hand trembled as she passed Littlefinger a scroll. Littlefinger kissed her knuckles almost perfunctorily before tucking the parchment into his sleeve. Bran focused. The words she spoke sharpened. "The hand will meet him at dusk." Bran's stomach dropped. The dagger flashed as Baelish flicked it open, slitting the scroll's seal. Bran tried to hear further, but a rush of wings startled him. He spun, and the crow perched upon the balustrade, its third eye open and glowing green. It cawed once. Sharp, urgent. Then the balcony bricks beneath Bran's feet melted into mist. He plunged, wings sprouting, catching a spiraling wind that carried him over the bay. Below, a ship bearing a stag sigil set sail, lanterns extinguished. Bran woke choking on sea air that wasn't there. Maester Luwin arrived within breaths, roused by Bran's cries. Bran's recounting this time held details so vivid, names so precise, that Luwin for once did not seek mundane answers. Instead he fetched ink and quill, copying Bran's words verbatim, no filter. The raven flown with that dispatch wore a silver ring on its leg, so Ned would know the urgency. In King's Landing, Ned Stark received the message under lantern light in his solar, the candles guttering low. He read Bran's vision 3 times. Memories stirred. Petyr's wry half-smile, the way his eyes flicked whenever speaking of coin or honor. and most of all the greasy sense of having been maneuvered by an unseen hand since setting foot in the city. Ned closed the dispatch, fingers drumming the table. He had once dismissed many of Catelyn's fears as bedchamber whisperings, yet now his son's unasked dreams matched his wife's found blade too neatly. Outside the solar door, the scuff of boot heels paused. Baelish himself, offering another jesting gambit about city brothels. Ned told him he would call later, voice calm. Pettier bowed, though his glance fell to the sealed letter in Ned's grip. He withdrew, too smoothly. That night Ned penned a reply to Winterfell, acknowledging the pattern. A dagger offered by Baelish as proof of Tyrion Lannister's guilt, though Baelish claimed it once belonged to him. A secret meeting arranged by Baelish tomorrow, and now Bran's portent. Ned wrote, "I will face him cloaked in silence but shielded by caution. Should your dream sharpen again, tell me. Truth hides behind his smile. This I begin to see." Then he summoned trusted men, Jory Castle, Allen, Tomard, commanding them to shadow Baelish thereafter. Back in Winterfell, Bran felt a flicker of triumph, though dread still pooled beneath. Dreams seldom granted happy endings. They were glimpses, warnings. Nights grew heavier as winter's promise returned on cold winds. Yet Bran discovered a steely peace, as though the old gods placed their rough hands upon his shoulders. He was not helpless. He could watch where others were blind, speak where others dared not. The burden weighed, but it also taught. He sat one twilight beneath the candle-lit branches of the heart tree, his breath clouding in front of him, and he whispered, "I will be your eyes, Father." And he meant not only for Ned Stark, he meant for the North, for each dear wolf heartbeat that echoed through the stones. Somewhere far beyond the walls, in a city of marble and lies, Lord Eddard Stark walked a path now edged by flickering green lights of caution, and though the path remained dark, his next steps would not be taken unknowing. The night settled over Winterfell with the hush of deep snow, though only a few white grains drifted. The ravens quieted in their cotes. In the great hall, a single torch burned low, its flame a small defiance against vast shadows. Bran lingered at his window, watching the moon's slow arc. He felt the hours stretch like drawn bowstring, knowing each tick might be mirrored in a chamber far away where plots coiled. No sound disturbed him, save Hodor's gentle snore from the pallet near the door. Bran closed his eyes, heart steady as the ancient stones around him. When next he slept, the crow would come again, and Bran would be ready. N.K. Hawaii. Awanduas Awaspenchayan. PGSQL. Moonlight draped Winterfell in pale gossamer, laying quiet claim to tower and turret alike. Bran stayed at his narrow window well past the darkest hour, refusing sleep though his eyelids burned. The courtyard below lay hushed, save for an occasional watchman's cough or the crunch of boots patrolling the battlements. Somewhere far off a direwolf answered the night with a single low note. Summer, he thought, or perhaps gray wind returning from the Godswood hunt. Bran counted the breaths between howls, felt their cadence line up with the slow pulse in his wrists. Only when the moon kissed the western ramparts did exhaustion finally drag him under. The dream took him first to frost-choked fields outside a city neither Winterfell nor King's Landing. Wind carved ripples through the snow, lifting white eddies that stung his cheeks. He trudged forward, each footstep crunching in eerie solitude, until the landscape cracked open beneath him to reveal a chamber of black ice lattices. In its heart stood a single ironwood chair, gaunt, draped in cobwebs. A dagger lay on the seat, its sapphire gone dull, its edge chipped. Bran reached, but the chair burst into a swarm of crows that scattered and reformed as a hooded silhouette. The figure raised a hand, and the chipped dagger knit itself whole again, the gem flaring blue. Before Bran could speak, the blade became a quill. Ink bled from its tip, falling in slow droplets that floated upward and burned holes in the sky, revealing blurred sigils. A mockingbird, a golden lion, a silver wolf, and then Ned's face emerged behind the torn veil, eyes shadowed, mouth half open as if to warn him of something. The vision dissolved in a gale of rustward leaves. Bran jolted upright, body aching from tension, palms slick. He tasted metal on his tongue. Dawn smoldered behind ash-gray clouds, and the familiar tang of burnt bacon drifted from the kitchens. Hodor still snored on the pallet, oblivious. Bran whispered the dream into the stillness, so he would not lose any shard of it before reaching Maester Luwin. He dressed without calling servants, fingers clumsy with laces. In the library tower, Luwin had already kindled a brazier. Scrolls lay unfurled like sleeping snakes across the desk. Bran recounted every petal of his dream, pausing only when words lacked the nuances color and echo provided. The maester, quill scratching, nodded gravely at mention of the transformation from dagger to quill. Steel into ink, violence into record, Luwin mused. An omen of deeds that will be written rather than done, or perhaps of wounds that come from tongues instead of blades. He set the parchment aside. More troubling is the chipped edge that mends itself. A plan broken and reforged, maybe. Mission. Bran shifted uncomfortably. Can we send this to father? We shall. Luwin rummaged for a fresh square of parchment, but his hand hovered. Yet every raven we dispatch risks interception. The King's Road buzzes with ears these days. Better we craft a cipher. If you can draw what you saw, particularly the chair of ironwood, that may speak more clearly to a cautious eye than plain words. Bran agreed, though he feared his sketches resembled the scribbles of babes. Luwin supplied charcoal sticks and encouraged him. Bran worked slowly, recalling each branching lattice of the ice chamber, the chair's lean angles, the chipped dagger mending. The result was crude, but faithful to memory. Luwin annotated the margins in a shorthand code only Master and Lord might share. Before noon, a raven spiraled south, its message folded thrice and sealed with clay bearing the direwolf. Days stretched like taffy. Spring's false warmth fled. Frost returned, rhyming buckets and hinges, as though the north objected to hurried seasons. Bran's lessons resumed. Genealogies, sums, the art of measuring wind for Archer's Loft. Yet every column of figures slipped beneath images of daggers and birds. To focus, he sat by the Godswood pool each afternoon, letting still water calm his thoughts. Summer often joined him, curling massive around the chair's legs, amber eyes half-lidded in trust. Bran felt an almost magnetic pull to slip behind those eyes, to see what Summer saw, smell what he smelled. Once, drifting on the edge of waking, he felt the wolf's heartbeat under his own ribs, but fear of losing himself yanked him back. The sensation left him panting, gooseflesh prickling along his arms. One chilly morning, Robb called Bran to the training yard. "I would have you watch," Robb said, sweat already darkening his collar. "Sir Roderick insists we master coordinated shield wall maneuvers." He smiled sheepishly. "And someone must tell me if I look a fool." Bran obliged, grateful for distraction. Hodor wheeled him to the galleries where ladies sometimes watched jousts. Below, Robb and the guards practiced locking shields, advancing in patient stomps. Bran studied the posture, the rhythm, step, brace, thrust, recalling Maester Luwin's lectures on phalanx tactics behind ancient Valyrian walls. Robb faltered twice, shields gapping. Bran shouted suggestions. By noon, perspiration steamed from every man. Robb dismissed them and strode up the stairs, grin broad. "Honest eyes help more than false praise," he said, ruffling Bran's hair. Then his expression sobered. "Any word from father?" "Only that he investigates and remains cautious." Robb nodded, jaw tight. "I dream of him walking into a den of snakes. I know he thinks honor shields him, but in the south words are barbs." He removed a leather arm guard, revealing chafed skin. "If Littlefinger truly plots, he'll not stop at whispers." Bran stared at the red welt, reminded of ink droplets burning holes in sky. He told Robb of the latest dream. His brother listened, brows converging. "If father calls you his little lord of visions," Robb said after a time, "then I shall call you my eyes in the snow. Keep them wide, Bran. And if the wolves show you more, howl loud enough for all of us." Nen. That evening, Bran joined Rickon and Arya by the hearth, the girls' sleek direwolves napping at their feet. Arya practiced needlework only in the loosest sense, blade of her wooden sword flicking at invisible foes. Rickon stacked carved wooden direwolves into improbable towers, then laughed as Shaggy Dog barreled through, scattering beasts like dice. Bran watched, warmth seeping into his bones. For a moment he allowed himself a boy's hope. That letters would solve dangers, that father would come home with tales and trinkets, and dreams would fade into mere stories. Far away the Red Keep simmered beneath an unforgiving noon sun. Ned Stark kept to shadowed corridors, hand resting near the pommel of ice as shorter traveling companion, but he drew no steel. He moved like a man balancing knives on every word. Jory Castle and Allen shadowed 2 corridors behind, eyes scanning tapestries for hidden slits. That morning, Petyr Baelish had delivered a cheerful missive. The Master of Coin wished to escort the hand to a discreet counting house in the Street of Silk where certain ledgers were kept safe from prying eyes. The time. Sunset. Dot. Ned assented outwardly. Yet an hour later, he tasked Jory with mapping every alley between the Red Keep and the counting house. Note points of ambush, Ned instructed. Windows high enough to hide crossbowmen or kettle of boiling oil. I will not walk into a snare blind. Jory, broad-shouldered and wary, bowed. My lord. Might it be wiser to decline altogether? Ned studied the younger man's earnest face. Littlefinger drapes traps in silk. If I step around every offer, he will know I suspect. Better to tread softly, keep my own men close and watch his play. He glanced at columned archways where sun struck dust motes. The wolf does not advertise its teeth to the deer, nor, alas, to the adder. The late afternoon simmered. The city stank of fish brine and rotting fruit. Ned rode in a modest litter, foregoing heraldry. Jory and Allen followed on foot, disguised as merchants' guards. The streets narrowed into crooked veins. Vendors hawked spiced dates, silks, perfume. Beggars coughed in doorways like broken hinges. All the while Ned's hand strayed near sword hilt beneath cloak, thumb brushing the smooth leather. At a cramped intersection, a boy whistled thrice. A signal previously paid for, and Jory nodded subtly. First choke point clear. They reached the counting house as the sun's disk tipped into haze. It was nondescript, save for a brass door handle shaped like a crane's leg. Within, air smelled of lavender and dust. Scroll cabinets lined walls. Petyr Baelish waited by a table scattered with parchment stacks, expression politely bored. Lord Stark, he greeted, bow smoothing the wrinkles of his dove-gray doublet. Apologies for the locale. Ledgers require quiet, and where better than a forgotten corner of the Street of Silk. Few come to audit accountants while pleasure calls elsewhere. Ned offered a curt nod. Let us make it quick. The hour grows late. Baelish gestured to a parchment. These, my lord, show repayments on crown debts stretching back 10 years. I hoped we might locate monies once lent by House Lannister. His eyes flicked to Ned's left where Jory stood in overt sentinel stance. Your guard seems tense. We have lost kings and hands alike to ambush in streets less foul than these, Ned answered evenly. I do not relish adding my bones to flea bottom. Baelish's smile barely twitched. Wise. Yet rest assured, I would never allow harm to fall upon you in my presence. He produced an inkpot and a quill whose shaft glimmered strangely, silver chased with a swallow motif. Ned's pulse quickened. Bran's most recent dream of quills and blades flashed behind his eyes. Baelish handed it across. Shall we mark entries? Ned examined the quill. Its nib shone sharper than usual. He set it down gently, meeting Petyr's gaze. You first. If Baelish felt nettled, he did not show it. He took the quill, signed 3 neat strokes. Ned watched keenly. The nib left ink, not blood. Still, suspicion coiled. He signed next with his own sand-colored goose feather. They reviewed columns of figures, all plausible, all damning in their sums. The realm owed near 3 million dragons, most of it to Lannister vaults. Ned's stomach knotted. King Robert spends coin as a freer man spends breath, Baelish murmured. This is no surprise. Yet you, Master of Coin, allow it. I am but a servant, Petyr replied, tone coated in velvet. The realm's coffers respond to the king's appetite. I may counsel, never command. Ned closed the ledger. Counsel me then. If we cannot curb spending, bankruptcy looms. Ned & Co. Baelish placed fingertips together, regarding Ned across candlelight. Austerity will anger the court. Better to extend lines of credit in Essos. The Iron Bank appreciates prompt interest. Borrow to pay debt. That path leads to ruin. Perhaps, Pettier conceded with a shrug. Unless ruin is deferred long enough to become someone else's problem. Ned's temper nearly flared. He swallowed it. The conversation drifted to rates, to funding of watchtowers on the Dornish marches, to the expense of new warships. All the while Ned's mind nursed Bran's images. Dagger to quill, chipped edge reforging. At last he rose. I will confer with the small council tomorrow. He offered no courtesy beyond that. Outside, night cooled the stench of day. Dory fell into step. Was it a trap? The captain asked. Not tonight, Ned answered. But he wished to weigh me. He finds fewer chinks in plain stone than he expected. That makes him dangerous. Back in his apartments, Ned penned a letter. Bran's dream of quill, chair, chipped blade had proven partly prophetic. He included details. Petter's suspicious quill, the Lannister debts, the council to borrow. A quill may bleed the realm, he wrote. Yet I sense sharper steel hidden behind it. He sealed the message with wax, pressing the direwolf deep. Then, cautious, he tucked a second unsealed parchment within. An innocuous recipe Lady Stark had once favored, masking the first between folds. Only Luwin and Catelyn would know to split the hem and reveal the true. Dawn found the raven on wing. In Winterfell, Bran emerged from uneasy slumber to find Robb's wolf, Grey Wind, pacing outside his chamber door, hackles bristling. The animal pressed nose to latches, whining softly. Bran asked Hodor to open. Grey Wind slipped inside, circling Bran's chair 3 times before settling, gaze fixed on the hearth where embers glowed. Bran extended a hand. The wolf butted his knuckles gently. He smells something, old Nan muttered from her corner rocker. Eyes milky but still sharp to nuance. Wolves feel omens in their whiskers. Mark my words, boy. Storms brew when wolves roam restless at dawn. Bran's skin prickled. The wolf lifted its head suddenly, ears flat. Moments later, a rap sounded. Maester Luwin entered bearing the sealed letter. Bran's stomach swooped. The maester broke wax, scanning quickly, then looked up, face alight with a blend of relief and deeper concern. Your vision served, he said. Lord Stark sensed the warning. Though no blade drawn, words cut deep all the same. He summarized Ned's report of ledgers, quill, council. Bran exhaled shakily. Grey Wind licked his hand, calming. Luwin added, Yet your father fears a blade still hides in shade. He asks if further dreams might show where. Bran swallowed. The old gods give what they will. I will ask again tonight. He hesitated. Maester, is it possible to guide a dream? Choose where to look. Luwin considered. In the crypts below Winterfell lie the bones of your blood. Some say sleeping there invites ancestral whispers. I hesitate to suggest such. Those passages chill flesh and spirit. But if the heartry are mirrors to the past, perhaps the crypts are the lungs. They breathe secrets upward on cold air. That afternoon, Bran asked Hodor to carry him to the crypt entrance. Robb accompanied, bearing a torch though daylight lingered. The mouth of the crypt yawned like an ancient wound in the hillside, steps plunging steep. Moss filmed the stone. A hush devoured ordinary sounds until only their breathing remained. Robb descended first, torch casting amber halos. Bran nestled in Hodor's arms. Shadows stretched into chamber after chamber. Stone direwolves crouched above the tombs of long-dead kings. Each corridor felt narrower, the air heavier, until Bran's lungs protested. They halted before the tomb of Bran the Builder, oldest of Stark ancestors. Robb set the torch in a bracket. Light probed the carved face, austere, beard flowing like river Ys. Bran reached out, fingers brushing stone. The surface shivered. No, that was his imagination, he decided. yet warmth bled through his fingertips as though some ember glowed beneath the granite skin. He closed his eyes. The crypt silence thickened, then carried a distant rumble. A waterfall? A heartbeat? He sensed roots searching downward, veins of the old gods threading rock and soil, linking tomb to weirwood. In that moment, Bran felt his own heart align with deeper pulses. If he whispered here, perhaps echoes would travel far indeed. Robb shifted uneasily. The air tastes wrong. Not wrong, Bran murmured. Oh. He inhaled, then whispered, "Show me father's foes. Show me the serpent's den." The words bounced softly along stone. Nothing answered but dripping water. Yet as they turned to depart, Bran glimpsed something beyond the torch's edge. A flicker of movement, pale as moonlight. He blinked. It vanished. Outside, day looked too bright, world too loud. Bran said nothing, unsure whether he had truly seen. That night, snow fell, violating the promise of spring. Bran asked Luwin to ply him with only a sip of dream wine, fearing dullness. He lay beneath blankets, listening to wind brush the shutters. Somewhere beyond the castle walls, wolves harmonized in eerie chorus. Sleep crept in on padded feet. He stood beside a river of black glass reflecting stars. The sky overhead burned a deeper indigo than mortal eyes could bear. On the far bank, lanterns bobbed along a walled garden, laden with scented orange trees. Bran recognized the place from old tapestries, the private courtyards behind the Tower of the Hand in King's Landing. He stepped onto a bridge of slick stone. Midway across, voices drifted. Pettier Baelish and a second man. Bran crouched, heart drumming. "He suspects," Baelish whispered. "Then feed his suspicion elsewhere." The second voice replied, oily, amused. "Point the wolf toward golden lions. Let him run his honor into their claws." "A dangerous game," Baelish cautioned. "Isn't every game?" The second man laughed softly. Bran edged forward, peering around an ornate pillar. Moonlight stroked the speaker's face, pale powdered with coal-tracking eyes that watched like polished obsidian. "Lord Varys, the spider." Bran's breath froze. Varys continued, "Provide him truths, Littlefinger. Truths that bleed in a pleasing color. He will bear them to the king. Robert will snarl at his queen. Jaime will draw steel, and in the scuffle, we gather secrets like fallen petals." Baelish murmured assent. "And if the wolf proves sharper than we guess, then a dagger in the dark," Varys answered lightly. "A hunting mishap returning from the Riverlands, perhaps. Wolves die as easily as deer." Bran's stomach clenched. A third figure stepped from shadow. Slender, armored lightly, hair cut short enough to pass bulk for a boy. The face was half hidden, but Bran glimpsed a scar below the ear. Jean Poole's cousin Tito's? No, the shape too graceful. The stranger spoke not, only offered a small leather satchel. Baelish weighed the pouch, gold coins clinking. Varys dismissed the figure with a curt nod. Bran edged back, but misjudged footing. The bridge rail rattled beneath him. Varys's head snapped up, eyes narrowing. The spider looked straight toward Bran, though surely he remained invisible as dream smoke. Varys stepped forward, gaze hungry, yet an unseen force tugged Bran's collar. He reeled backward into nothingness, wind roaring. He landed on a snow-hammered field. Above, the heart tree's branches formed a cage of white bone. Summer and gray wind stood on either side. Hackles raised, rumbles rolling in their throats. Between them, pawing snow, Shaggy Dog emerged, eyes wild. Bran felt a jolt. Shaggy Dog should be at Winterfell. How stood he here? Some part of Bran sensed this place was neither dream nor waking, but a crossing. The air shimmered, and the figure from the garden appeared, clutching the coin pouch. But here the stranger's features resolved. A girl not much older than Sansa, dark eyes darting like a sparrow's. She dropped the bag, coins spilling, and drew a slim blade. Bran felt the wolves tense. The girl slashed at gray wind, but the steel passed through as though through mist. The wolf remained whole. The stranger's jaw set in defiance. She lunged toward Bran. Shaggy Dog intercepted, teeth clamping the blade's edge. Summer knocked the girl flat. She lay pinned, breath ragged, staring at Bran with a mixture of terror and fierce resolve. Bran crouched, sudden compassion blooming. "Who are you?" Her lips moved, but no sound came. Bran realized the dream granted him speech. She, perhaps, was bound to silence. He attempted a different approach, reached out with thought, like stepping behind a wolf's eyes. Shapes formed, tiles of a water dance training hall, coins gleaming upon a silk mattress, a face he recognized from fleeting glimpses at court, one of Queen Cersei's handmaidens. The girl's name burst into Bran's mind, Kyra. She served the queen by day, and by night carried messages for hidden masters. She was to trail Lord Stark along the river gate next moonrise, slip poison into his wineskin if opportunity favored. Bran reeled. Wolves tightened around the girl like shadows. Yet he hesitated to order harm. Instead, he reached further, searching her motives. Another image surfaced. A sickly brother coughing in a flea-bottom hovel. A promise of gold for medicine. Compassion warred with revulsion. Bran beckoned with his mind to Summer. The direwolf eased back, emitting a grunt. Shaggy Dog released the blade. Bran placed a hand upon the girl's brow. "Go," he whispered in thought. "But choose no more daggers for coin." The dream blurred. She vanished, leaving only coins scattered over snow that melted where they touched. Bran awoke at dawn, soaked in sweat, heart racing yet infused with triumphant clarity. He summoned Luwin post-haste, recounting every secret. The maester's face whitened. An alliance of Baelish and Varys? Disturbing. He drafted dispatches at once. One to Ned, detailing the planned poison plot along the river gate. Another to Catelyn, still on the road, urging caution should she near King's Landing. The Raven Tower frothed with wings before midday. That same day, Catelyn Stark's party approached the neck, crossing causeways flanked by green pools. Reeds whispered ominous lullabies. Sir Brynden Tully, the Blackfish, rode at her side, eyes scanning horizon. They discussed the dagger found after Bran's fall, the one Catelyn carried wrapped in cloth. Brynden voiced doubts about Tyrion's guilt, suggesting the blade's path smelled of manipulation. Catelyn clenched reins. "Then whose?" "Lannister plots run deep," Brynden answered, "but so do the currents in King's Landing. I fear we sail blind." He gestured to mists. Even moat, Kaelin hides, knives and fog. They pressed on. At Winterfell, Robb convened a council of household knights. He relayed Ned's concerns, emphasizing readiness should ravens cry for northern banners. Some balked, citing sowing season and meager stores. Robb's voice cut firm. "The realm's heart bleeds coin and rumor. We may be called to staunch both." Bran watched from a balcony, proud. His brother's shoulders seemed broader each day. Night descended thick. Bran asked Hodor to wheel him to the God's Wood alone. Robb offered guards, but Bran refused, feeling a sacred determination. Moonlight sifted through red leaves, patterning Bran's cloak with speckles of crimson. Summer padded behind. Bran set his hands on the heart tree, closed eyes, and exhaled. This time, entry came smoothly. No rip, no vertigo. He glided above King's Landing's maze of rooftops, senses sharper. He found the river gate, torches guttered, reflecting off black water. Guards dozed. He drifted onto the deck of a modest ferry moored nearby. Barrels lined the rails. A figure hunched behind them. The girl Kyra, face etched with regret, now alone. She clutched a vial, thumb worrying the cork. Tears carved streaks through grime on her cheeks. Bran perched unseen. Kyra lifted the vial, hesitated, then hurled it into the river, watching it sink. She whispered into the dark, "Forgive me." Relief warmed Bran. He coaxed a thought. "Seek the Silent Sisters, they heal without coin." A glimmer passed over her face as if the suggestion reached her. She rose and vanished into shadows. Bran drifted upward, searching other alleys. Below the Tower of the Hand, lanterns burned where Ned paced a balcony, arms folded. Catelyn had not yet arrived, but Bran sensed currents drawing them together. Beyond the tower arch pavilions for an upcoming tourney dotted the fields, banners snapping despite little wind. Knights practiced tilts under torchlight. lances clashing. Bran felt the hum of ambition, jealousy, and danger. Further west, in the Spicer's Row, Pater Baelish reclined in a brothel solarium, sipping wine while scribbling on parchment. Placements of bets for jousts, promises of coin, names circled in red. A shadow at the curtains coughed. The same hooded figure Bran had sensed in earlier visions? No, this one broader. Wearing a cloak with manticore embroidery. An assassin from Lys, Bran guessed. Baelish passed him a purse heavier than Kyrus. Bran tried listening, but the dream distorted voices. The Lyseni counted coins, nodded. Bran saw the glint of a narrow stiletto tucked at the man's belt. The world spun. Bran crashed back into his own body, gasping. The godswood seemed to whirl with him. Snowflakes drifted though sky had been clear moments before. Summer whined, nose nudging Bran's knee. Bran clutched fur. Another blade, he whispered. He and Luwin wrote again. Raven again. The night stretched with tension like a bowstring on the verge of snap. South, winds shifted. Ned received Bran's warning of poison hours before Baelish's next invitation. This time to dine aboard a pleasure barge on the Blackwater before the tourney. Ned declined politely, citing an urgent audience with Lord Commander Barristan Selmy. Then he doubled the guard near his quarters, banned any drink not poured by his own steward. The subtle rebuff stung Baelish. Ned noted the flicker of annoyance behind polite eyes. Good, he thought. Let him wonder which snares are seen. Yet Ned also recognized he could not dance avoidance forever. Evidence must surface if he hoped to confront Baelish openly. He enlisted Stannis Baratheon's dour help in combing through records of Robert's bastards. A puzzle, he suspected, linked to succession, maybe to Baelish's endgame. Stannis agreed with grim nod. Both men shared disdain for court intrigues. Late nights passed amid tomes, candles stuttering as dawn crept. Meanwhile, Catelyn's party reached the outskirts of King's Landing under swirling dust. Spying uncertain banners ahead, Brynden led her to a narrow postern gate known only to some river smugglers. They entered the city unannounced, lodging at the Messenger's Rest near the mud gate. Catelyn dispatched secret word to Ned. She awaited him. Hours later, Ned came cloaked, slipping through kitchen doors. Husband and wife embraced fiercely in a dim chamber smelling of dried figs. They exchanged news. The dagger, Bran's dreams, Baelish's duplicity, Lannister debts. Catelyn displayed the Valyrian dagger found after Bran's fall. Ned's gaze hardened. Pater claimed it was his, lost to Tyrion in a bet. But perhaps he lied on both counts. He may have commissioned it only to cast blame. They resolved to confront Baelish with cunning. Feign trust until evidence exposed him before the council. Stone may crack under slow frost, Ned murmured. So shall we wait until his own words freeze around him. That same night, Baelish dreamed as well. Though whether by accident or some darker art, none could say. A crow perched on his pillow, cocking one eye. In its beak glimmered a sapphire-hilted dagger chipped along the edge. Pettier reached, intrigued, and the dagger snarled. Yes, snarled, sprouting teeth along its blade. It bit his fingers, drawing blood that sizzled. He woke sweating, hand unconsciously clutching a quill. Ink spilled across parchments, ruining names and sums. Baelish sighed, cleaned quill. But the dream's teeth gnawed his confidence. Next dawn, the tourney grounds buzzed, with knights clattering, banners rippling, gold exchanging hands. Sansa attended Queen Cersei's dais, eyes wide at armors polished bright. Arya sneaked to the back ranks, copying Sir Syrio Forel's stance to dodge jostling pages. Ned stood near the royal box, forced smile pinned beneath troubled brow. Robert roared approval at each tilt, goblets sloshing wine. Loras Tyrell, unhorsed, Ser Sandor Clegane, by cunning flower ensnared lance. Crowd gasped. Beneath applause, Baelish sidled to Ned, whispered amusements about knights and flowers. Ned returned polite nods, but behind courtesy weighed every word. Between bouts, a lesser knight collapsed in convulsions, foam flecking lips. Physicians claimed heatstroke. Ned's eyes narrowed. The man had drunk from a wineskin passed among squires. Ned signaled Jory, who discovered the wineskin discarded near stands, smelling faintly of bitter almonds. Poison. But for whom? The knight had found it unattended. Perhaps the true target never touched it. Ned's throat tightened. Another blade veiled his cup. He wrote to Winterfell that night. Dream of poison proved. Blade narrowly missed our hearth. Thank the old gods for watchful eyes. At Winterfell, Bran's relief mingled with fatigue. Each night stole more of him, as though the line between dream and waking frayed. Old Nan noticed circles darkening under his eyes. The candle burns at both ends, she scolded gently. Even the brightest flame gutters without wax. Bran tried restful nights yet still fell into watching dreams, wolf eyes glinting. One twilight, while Robb drilled archers on the walls, Bran felt Summer grow restless. The wolf trotted to the kennels, snarling at the door. Curious, Bran asked a stable boy to open. Inside lay dead rabbits by a workbench, entrails removed with chilling precision. Bran's pulse raced. Flayed rabbits whispered Bolton cruelty, but no Bolton banner flew here. Hodor hoisted Bran nearer. A symbol marked on the workbench in dried blood, the mockingbird of Baelish. Bran ordered the servants to alert Robb. When his brother arrived, face stormed dark. They searched kennels. A swaddled letter emerged from hay. The North loses its bite when separate from its head. No signature, only a small blue gem embedded in waxed eye. Robb crushed it, jaw clenching. They tightened guard, posted direwolves near the crypt entrance. Bran sent Raven to father. Mockingbirds perch even in the north. Ned read this at dawn, anger flaring. He summoned Baelish privately in his solar. Pettier entered all grace and smiles until Ned hurled the blood-smeared letter onto the desk. "Explain," Ned demanded, voice cold. Baelish lifted the parchment, brow knitting. "My sigil, yet not my hand. A crude attempt to frame me? You have no shortage of enemies," Ned allowed. "Yet few choose mockingbird seals but you." Pettier met Ned's stare. "Believe me or not, my lord, but I value our friendship." The pause lingered. "Perhaps Lannister fingers mimic my seal to sour trust." Ned's silence weighed heavy. At length he said, "Trust is earned by deed, not word. If you are ally, prove it. Tell me why the crown that sword." Baelish hedged behind banker jargon. Ned pressed. "And tell me of a Lyseni assassin in your brothel." Pettier's mask slipped, eyes flicking with surprise before shutters closed. He sighed. "We all rent rooms, Lord Stark. Some tenants I know, some I do not. Name this Lyseni and I shall investigate." Ned leaned forward. "You already know his name." Pettier swallowed. "Dismiss him. Should harm come to any Stark child, none in the Seven Kingdoms will hide you." Baelish chuckled thinly. Bold words for a man far from winter snows. Yet unsureness lurked. He bowed stiffly and departed. That afternoon the Lyseni assassin slipped from the brothel stable, throat neatly cut. City Watch found the body floating near the quays by dusk. Ned learned from Jory. He felt neither triumph nor reassurance. Only a sense of being drawn deeper into a maze where feet never find firm ground. In the Eyrie, Lady Lysa Arryn received a messenger from King's Landing. A veiled letter written in tiny script by Petter Baelish, encouraging her to hold strong against wolves and lions alike, hinting at threats against her son. Lysa's paranoia deepened. She commanded her knights to prepare for siege, though none threatened the Vale. Chaos, as always, favored Baelish. Winterfell's days shortened, nights sharpened. Bran sat often in the library, poring over maps of Valyrian roads, histories of Targaryen bastards, anything that might connect puzzle pieces. During one such session, Rickon toddled in clutching a smooth river stone. He plopped it onto Bran's lap, declaring, "For stories." Bran smiled, ruffling Rickon's hair. The stone felt warm, oddly. He set it beside him. Hours later, after Rickon had scampered away, Bran noticed faint lines etched on the stone. 3 circles interlocking. When he traced them, visions flickered. 3 dragons wheeling above Blackwater Bay. A red comet splitting sky, a man with silver gold hair watching flames dance. Bran jerked hand back. Leuven found him trembling. "Too many doors open," the maester murmured, easing the stone away. "Visions unbound by blood can drown the seer." Bran swallowed. "But if answers lie there, answers matter little if the mind shatters. Pace yourself. Even the Greenseers of old took decades to master sight." "Naon." Bran nodded, though frustration stamped his gut. As moon waxed high, a storm of ravens beat across the neck. Rumors of Tywin Lannister mustering forces at Casterly Rock. Tales of skirmishes along the Trident. Whispers of King Robert drowning debts in wine while Queen Cersei plotted. Ned sent urgent letters north. Prepare to call banners, though not yet. Robb trained doubly hard, forging a bond with his bannermen. One evening, Bran dreamed not of daggers but of roots. He descended beneath Red Keep dungeons into caverns where dragon skulls rested. He traced cracked fangs of Balerion the Black Dread, feeling age and menace. In the gloom, he spotted a new skull. Smaller, wolfish. He recoiled. From the darkness, Varys and Baelish emerged, debating whether to mount the wolf skull in council chambers as a reminder of northern ferocity tamed. Baelish argued for polishing fangs. Varys counseled leaving bone raw. Bran cried out, and the cavern shook. Bones splintered. Dragonfire roared, though no dragon lived. Bran soared upward, smashing through stone into open air, but looked back to see the Red Keep crumble into ash. He woke sobbing. Leuven soothed him with honeyed milk. Bran realized portents now widened beyond personal family safety. They foreshadowed war. He told Robb, who inhaled sharply. "If father falls," Robb said quietly, "I will ride south with every sword the North can muster." "He will not," Bran insisted, voice fierce. "We will not let him." Yet distance and politics weighed heavy. Dreams could only warn, not wield swords. The next fortnight unfolded in suspensions, scout reports, secret councils, and Bran's weary vigil. Kyra found a post tending a sept's garden. Her brother's cough lessened. The Blackfish escorted Catelyn to meet with Sir Renly Baratheon, hoping for southern support. Varys spun webs. Baelish trimmed them where convenient. Ned uncovered a ledger showing unexpected payments to expressly quiet Potter's guilds. Payments signed by Baelish, funds ultimately routed to a shadowy bank in Essos. The coin symbol matched markings on the Lyseni assassin's purse. Threads tightened. At Winterfell, one crisp dawn, Bran felt a new pulse. Summer perked ears southwest, hackles bristling. A raven approached fast, wings laboring. The bird landed on the sill, ragged, delivering a scrap rather than scroll. 3 words hastily scrawled. "Dagger at dusk." No seal. Leuven puzzled. Bran's skin prickled. He told the maester. "Send warning." They launched 3 ravens with identical messages to Ned at every known rookery. In King's Landing, dusk painted rooftops blood orange. Ned walked battlements to clear thoughts. Jory accompanied until Gatehouse, then left for evening patrol. Ned continued alone, cloak snapping in warm breeze. Halfway down Rampart 2, city watchmen saluted, letting him pass a narrow archway. There, in the throat of the corridor, a figure waited. Slender, cloaked. Moonlight caught a blade. Valyrian steel dagger, sapphire ablaze. Ned's breath caught. Bran's first dream come manifest. Reflex honed from rebellion war saved him. He pivoted, parried with dagger from belt. The assassin lunged again. Swift. Silent. Steel clashed. Ned shouted. Footsteps pounded behind. The assailant's hood fell. Eyes wide with shock. Kyra. The girl he spared? No, similar build but male. Perhaps her fellow orphan pressed into darker work. He slashed. Ned sidestepped. City watch arrived, pikes leveled. The assassin fled downstairs, arrows barely missing. Ned pursued into a shadowed court where lanterns swayed. Baelish stepped from shade, hands raised as if to calm. "My lord, unwise to run so loud through night," Pettier drawled. "An attempt on my life," Ned snarled. blade wet with blood that was not his. "And you appear." Baelish spread arms, shrugging slender shoulders. "Coincidence, and your thanks, for I tracked the rogue." He fled toward Ragman's wharf. "And the nations." Ned's eyes narrowed. "Too convenient, Master of Coincidence." Baelish's tone cooled. "Believe what you will. I return to the council now." He bowed, vanished down another archway. Jory arrived panting. They searched, but assassin gone. Ned's heart thundered. He had glimpsed the dagger clearly. Carved dragonbone hilt, sapphire pommel, same as Bran's dream. Proof, at last. Yet suspect remains elusive. Ned dressed wound on his forearm, shallow but burning. In his chamber he penned, "The blade returned, warned in time. Your sight is shield stronger than steel." He sealed it with direwolf and 3-star sigils for urgency. At Winterfell, Bran read the reply with tears of relief. Yet fear gnawed. Each warning occurred closer to harm. Dreams saved father by inches. He looked to the sky where clouds bruised purple. Thunder rumbled. Summer nuzzled him, but Bran felt storm break on horizon. The game lengthened, pieces moving faster. That night, as he drifted toward another dream, Bran whispered a vow into the dark. "I will not falter. I will hold the candle in this storm." And far away, Ned Stark, gazing upon the sleeping city, felt a sudden warmth on the wind, like a boy's small hand closing over his own, and for a heartbeat, even the master of coin's webs seemed fragile against such simple, steadfast strength. PGSQL. Gray clouds sagged low over King's Landing, swollen with the threat of another spring storm that smelled of salt and furnace smoke. And through them the late-day sun glimmered like a dull coin sunk deep in murky water. The city's ceaseless din, vendors singing their wares, hammer blows from armories, seabirds squabbling above the fish market, hung heavy beneath that looming ceiling. Yet somewhere in the restless clamor Ned Stark sensed a frail hush, as if the city itself held its breath. The blood had been washed from the flagstones where the assassin's pursuit ended, but stones remembered. They kept scars in their cool bones, whispering them to careful ears. Ned paused outside the Tower of the Hand, fingertips grazing crenellations, scarred by age and siege. He felt the memory of old blades scraping against these very blocks, ghosts of wars past. Tonight, new ghosts nested here. Inside the tower, candles guttered despite glass shutters, drafts slithering through arrow slits. Maester Pycelle droned in the audience chamber about fresh leechings for King Robert's humors, his complacent voice punctuating every second clause with a wheezing sigh. Ned half listened, mind elsewhere, gaze roaming the tapestries. Stag hunts, Targaryen dragons, Stark direwolves fleeing winter storms. On a bench opposite sat Sir Barristan Selmy, immaculate in white cloak, one glove removed to polish the crest of his sword pommel. His eyes, sharper than his age betrayed, lifted every so often to study Ned. Across from him Varys hovered, hands folded in voluminous sleeves of lavender silk, expression as smooth and unreadable as a millpond at dawn. Baelish arrived late, cloak sprinkled with raindrops, and took a perch at the far corner where candlelight bled away, leaving his smile uncertain. Pycelle's lecture wound down at last. Ned dismissed him with curt thanks. The doors shut. Sir Barristan offered wordless salute and departed to drill the King's Guard. Varys, ever courteous, bowed. "Lord Hand, shall we discuss this evening's matter?" Ned motioned him closer, letting Baelish hang back like a forgotten shadow. "A murderer stalks royal ramparts," Ned said, voice stripped of ornament. Not footpad or cutpurse, trained and paid. He aimed at hard Northman gaze first at Varys, then at Baelish. "We will root him out." Varys' smile curved sorrowfully. "Alas, there are more cutthroats in King's Landing than Septons in Old Town. But I shall lay my little birds to the task. A dagger of Valyrian steel narrows the list. Few can afford such finery." Baelish loosed an airy chuckle, or wished to lose it in botched murder. Foolish attempt. A pity the rogue slipped. He perched upon a carved chest, ankle resting on knee, feigned nonchalance betrayed by eyes flicking candleward. The quill dream still gnawed him. Ned saw it. A pity indeed, Ned echoed. He bore a mockingbird stitch on his cuff. Silence fell like a hammer blow. Petter's lips parted fractionally, but no quip came. Varys's brows inched. Ned pressed. Curious heraldry for a street killer. Baelish found composure, shrugging slim shoulders. Mockingbirds flock around many feeders. You suspect my involvement? How dull. Yet beads of sweat purled at his temple. Ned leaned closer. I suspect cleverly placed misdirection. But deceit stains the hands cloaked behind it. I will find whose hands bear that blot. He shifted toward Varys. Your birds may begin by questioning the Spice Market Guild. Word is a Lyseni sells rare poisons there. Already fluttering, my lord, Varys purred. I shall report anon. Baelish unfolded arms. And what of the coin behind such blades, Lord Stark? Coin moves faster than rumors. Permit me to audit the counting houses again, follow the dragons to roost. Ned inclined head just enough. A trap laid may draw its setter close if one tugs the lure gently. When they were gone, silence pooled. Ned stared at guttering flames, thinking of Bran's far-off vigil. The boy's dreams had saved him again, dagger at dusk. Yet each rescue narrowed odds. Wolves could not snap every unseen arrow. Ned drew parchment, scratched quick script. Request for Sir Barristan to escort him secretly to an address in the Street of Dust at moonrise. He sealed it, summoned a runner. Moonrise found Ned cloaked plain. Blade at hip. Barristan met him beneath crumbling arch, one lantern hooded. They ventured through alleys rank with damp straw and horse urine, past shuttered potter's stalls, toward a shuttered bakery whose sign bore a faded spring hawk. Ned knocked thrice, twice, once. Latches slid. The door admitted them into darkness smelling of singed parchment. An elderly man in raw wool robes bowed. We are honored, my lord. His accent? Bravosi? Or perhaps Tiroshi sanded smooth by years. He guided them down steps into a room lined by stacked ledgers and chipped amphorae. There, upon a low table, lay 3 sheets. Records of financial transfers bearing mockingbird seals, stamped by counting house clerks. Ned scanned entries. Substantial sums routed to names he did not know. The Bravosi explained these accounts belong to feeders, urchins, sellswards, petty spies. Gold flows from the same master though their signatories differ. I recalled our earlier conversation. Lord Selmy's quiet courtesy. Thought these scribbles might interest. He tapped the mockingbird stamp. Cleverly forged, yet ink mixture bespoke richer station. Only highborn scribes heat oak also. Nedmots. Ned's gut tightened. Evidence dangerous yet intangible. He thanked the man, promised discreet favor, and left with copies tucked inside tunic. On the return, Selmy murmured, enemies gather cloaked beneath masks of jest. I fear tournament gold and poison share fountain. Ned nodded grim. Next day, rain arrived in earnest, hammering tile roofs, turning straw to fetid churn. Squires scrambled across muddy practice fields. Sansa complained her new gown soaked through. Arya splashed barefoot until Septa scolded. In the Hans Solar, Ned assembled trusted retainers. Jory, Alan Tomard, a lithe bowman named Hallis Mullen. He spread the forged accounts. From dusk till dawn watch Baelish's manse. Every servant, every candle. No confrontation. Mark comings and goings. If he dispatches a raven, trace flight if you can. They nodded with soldierly resolve. Meanwhile, Catelyn met secretly with Renly Baratheon beneath the Maiden Vault roofs. Rain drummed like drums of war. Renly, urbane smile, listened as she laid out suspicions. Lannister plotting, mockingbird schemes, dagger. Renly toyed with stag antler brooch. Pater plays many games, he said, but seldom alone. My brother's complacence invites serpents. I will speak with Stannis. Should Ned gather proof, we may push for action. Catelyn offered thanks though mistrust simmered. Renly loved pageantry. Truth ranked second to spectacle. At Winterfell, Bran gazed from his window at sleet-slashing ramparts. Dreamless nights had grown rare. When they did arrive, He felt hollow, as though missing some vital breath. Luwin's warning still weighed, yet Bran sensed his gift deepening. This afternoon he tasted summer's blood, felt damp leaves brushing fur though he sat in wool blankets. He saw through his wolf's eyes as summer loped along the ridge north of Winterfell, hunting snowshoe hares. The forest smelled alive. Moss, mold, hot rabbit fear. A surge of exultation propelled Bran until heartbeat merged with the wolf's. He chased, pounced, teeth closing on warm pulse. For a moment primal joy flooded him, then he recoiled. He had tasted blood. Bran jerked from vision, gasping. Pain flared in his jaw where phantom fangs clenched. He wiped mouth, expecting red. Only saliva. Unease rustled, but also wonder. Perhaps he could look farther next time, through falcon or raven. The thought both thrilled and chilled him. That night he returned to the crypts, guided by Hodor's torch. Robb considered it reckless, but allowed. Down stone steps, Bran felt the hush again. Like thick wool smothering sound. He halted at the tomb of Lyanna Stark. Her stone likeness wore sorrowed eyes, hands clutching a winter rose. Bran pressed fingers to the wolf carved at her feet. Wind stirred dust, though no wind should reach so deep. He whispered, "Show me the spider's lair." Flames shivered on torch, then stilled. Sleep came heavy as chains. The dream unfolded in flicker glints. Baelish alone in his bedchamber before dawn, writing feverishly by candle stub. Face gaunt, words on parchment. The wolf's fangs near my throat. Delay required. A lion's roar to mask the bite. He sprinkled red sand across ink to quick dry. Another flicker. Varys conversing with Grand Maester Pycelle in a greenhouse where melons hung bulbous and damp. Pycelle's robes brushed spider-webbed vines. Varys' whisper carried anxiety. Pressure grows. The wolf sensed the chill. Pycelle stroked beard, mumbling about health of the realm, advising caution. A third scene. Cersei Lannister in her solar, eyes bright, voice clipped with anger. She held a sealed scroll. Bran somehow knew it bore Robb's raven to Ned. She snapped the seal, scanned lines, lips curling. "This northern boy spies from dreams," she hissed to Jaime lounging nearby. "Superstition." Jaime shrugged, gold hair catching lamplight. "Dreams or daggers, either can kill if true." Cersei tore scroll, fed pieces to Brazier. Bran felt sudden dread. One raven intercepted, yet two others. He willed them safe. The vision veered west across mountains to Casterly Rock. Tywin Lannister at council table, armor off but presence iron. Reports of crown debt recited by steward. Tywin's fingers drummed gold plate, eyes cold. If the king begs coin like a whore, let him dance. But if the wolf sullies lion pride, claws meet steel. Already he planned movement of 30,000 men. Bran surfaced from dream with a choked cry. Dawn leaked gray through arrow slits. Torch near died. He recounted all to Luwin before memory could fade. Maester frowned deeply. Intercepted scroll. Troubling. Shield up. He penned urgent warning. Beware lion's attention. Baelish seeks to instigate. Ravens flew into storm. Feathers hammered by sleet. In King's Landing the tourney resumed under sodden skies. Mud spattered silk banners. Crowds huddled under canvas awnings. Yet wagers flew thicker. Joust after joust ended in broken lances and bruised egos. At midday, a herald announced a melee of 40 knights. Ned, rain-slit cloak plastered to shoulders, watched Sansa glow at the pageantry. Arya sulked, arms crossed, soaked to bone. Ned's thoughts rarely left forging conspiracies. Jory sidled. Spies report Baelish's litter visited Sept of the Seven this dawn. Left with 2 burlap chests, contents unknown. Ned's jaw tightened. Follow, Dart Day. Jory melted away. Meanwhile, Baelish joined Royal Pavilion, feigning amusement at Muddy Squires. Horasim. Varys stood under lilac umbrella, eyes flicking to Baelish with wary mirth. Ned studied both. Rain blurred edges of intrigue, but did not wash them away. Nightfall draped the city. Bells tolled sext from Great Sept Taste. Ned paced balcony, mind-mapping alliances. Renly reachable, Stannis unyielding. Very slippery, but perhaps ally by necessity. Baelish remained the pivot. Proof grew but not yet fatal. He considered a rest, yet Robert, besotted with wine and hunts, might side with the friendlier face. Evidence must roar louder than Baelish's silver tongue. A soft knock. Catelyn slipped inside, cloak dripping. Ned embraced her. Warmth, momentary respite. She brought news. Lysa Arryn refused further overtures, claiming vanishing assassins from King's Landing now stalked her eyrie. Your sister flies deeper into paranoia. Ned sighed. They boiled mulled wine, spoke low of children, Bran's visions, Arya's fencing, Robb's determination. Catelyn's eyes shone proud yet worried. When Ned showed her forged ledgers, she swore softly. This must reach Stannis. He respects proof if not people. They spent dawn hours drafting a summary of debts linked to Baelish, names of paid spies, and dream corroborations. Ned sealed twin copies, one for Stannis, one hidden north. Catelyn would deliver to Stannis disguised as merchant escort. He kissed her forehead. Take Sir Roderick and 3 guards. Ride at first light. Elsewhere Baelish poured arbor gold for Lord Janos Slynt, commander of the city watch. They huddled in wine-soaked alcove while thunder rolled. A wolf stalks court, Baelish murmured. Should his hunt unsettle streets, gold cloaks must protect small folk. Slynt smirked, understanding coin beneath courtesy. Pettier slid a heavy purse across. Keep eyes wide. Should the wolf step into shadows where accidents happen, he let words trail like smoke. Slynt nodded greedily. In his manse atop Visenya's hill, Baelish unlocked the burlap chests. Not gold but scrolls within, each bearing wax of minor Riverlands houses. He scanned signatures. Old friends, petty lords who owed debts. Letters promised small retinues. 200 men here, 50 there, should Petter require favors. He smiled thinly. The game board extended beyond capital. Another dawn birthed clear sky, but tension thickened. Robb's raven, a Baelish's mockingbird threat, reached Ned intact. Second raven circumventing intercept. Ned felt grim satisfaction. Bran's network bested Queen's efforts. He summoned Jory. Tonight we snare Baelish, but we must bait. He devised plan. Leak rumor through Varys that Ned would carry sensitive lists to Great Sept Crypt at midnight. If Petter thirsted for ledgers, he'd seize chance. Sunset painted the Red Keep copper. Jory whispered the rumor to Varys' well-placed spider. Word flew on silken wings. Ned prepared. Under plain cloak, he hid dull copies of meaningless account books. In shadowed corridor near the crypt entrance, he placed Hallis Mullen and Allen with crossbows. Jory waited beside him, sword loose. They doused torches, cloaked lantern. Hours passed. Dust, motes, danced in single moonbeam. Then footfalls. Light, deliberate. A lithe figure glided along colonnade. The same hooded stranger Bran spared? No. Taller male, movements fluid. He paused, glanced both ways, advanced. As he neared Ned's doorway, Allen loosed crossbow. The bolt thumped stone at his heel. The man spun, dagger drawn, face revealed. Pock-scarred cell sail from Lys, Bran's earlier dream. He darted. Jory blocked path, clashed steel. Allen tackled from flank. They wrestled, dagger scraping armor. Ned strode forth, blade bare. The assassin froze, eyes wide. Who hired you? Ned demanded. I speak only to the copper bird. He spat Essosi accent. Mullen cuffed him. Ned signaled. They bound the man, gagged. Moments later, fresh steps approached. Swift but careless. Baelish emerged, halting at scene. His face flickered. Surprise? Calculation? He recovered. Smirking. Lord Stark? Late stroll. His gaze slid to bound assassin. Ah, unpleasant company. Ned locked eyes. Your coin purchased his blade. He named Copperbird, Mockingbird. Lyseni ruffians blame many, Peter replied breezily. But if he speaks truth, Let him face the council. He shall. Ned signaled guards. Confine him in black cells. Tomorrow, we question before king. Baelish inclined head. Lantern light, etched cheekbones, sharp dotty. He turned, cloak swirling, voice drifting back. Be sure he survives till dawn. Accidents plague dungeons. Ned watched him vanish, aware threat cut both ways. He escorted prisoner down winding stair to cells reeking of mold and fear. He ordered double guard, keys under Jory. The cell sail glared with snake eyes. Above, Varys awaited in corridor, face grave. Dangerous victory, my lord. When fox is cornered, teeth sink deep. Better corner than free, Ned growled. He returned to Solar, drafting letter for Robert. Confession extracted from assassin naming Petyr Baelish. Yet he felt uneasy. Coin alone might twist the cell sail's tongue. In the pitch-black hour before dawn, Bran dreamed of caverns again. This time beneath Baelish's manse. He followed trickle of water into small cell where the assassin, wrists chafed, knelt in chains. Baelish stood over him with purse. Say lion, he hissed, pressing coin. Say Lannister. The assassin's eyes flickered. He nodded once. Bran recoiled. Bran woke gasping. Shouted for Maester. Lewin penned Raven. Beware false words in morning council. Coin has changed story. Dawn's red finger pried sky. Council convened. Robert absent, nursing wine-sick head. Queen Cersei flanked by Pycelle. Selmy, Varys, Renly. Baelish present. Ned arrived, escorting assassin under guard. Baelish's poised smile cut glass. Ned opened. This man attempted my murder. He claims Petyr Baelish paid him. I ask hearing. Baelish raised brow. Let him speak. Ned gestured. Jory removed gag. The Lyseni bowed low. My lords, I was hired by Gold of House Lannister, he proclaimed. Accent thick. A red lion seal. The master of coin only delivered message under duress. Gasps. Cersei feigned outrage. Renly frowned. Selmy glanced uncertain. Varys steepled fingers. Ned's jaw hardened. Last night you said mockingbird. Forced words from pain, the man insisted. Truth is lion. Baelish sighed theatrical. I did transport coin when threatened, yes, but I am no conspirator. Ned glared. He sensed trap. Bran's warning. He pivoted to assassin. Describe who gave coin. The man recited traits suspiciously generic. Cersei sneered. Ned pressed. What motive had Lion? The man faltered. Baelish interjected. Perhaps Hand of King meddles too deep in debts. Ned drew forged ledgers, slammed onto table. Proof of payments linking Petyr to this man's alias. Council erupted. Cersei claimed forgeries. Baelish coolly denied. Pycelle hemmed. Renly asked for private review. Varys surprised all. I witnessed Lord Baelish meeting the cell sail 2 nights hence, exchanging purse. I cannot speak to purpose, but presence puts doubt on his word. All turned. Baelish's smile cracked. Ned saw flicker of panic in Petyr's eyes. Yet Cersei seized moment. Spider's words weigh wind. My father's name dragged by northerner and eunuch. I will inform the king. She swept out. Pycelle trailing. Renly followed, shaking head. Baelish remained, eyes cold. He whispered to Ned. War of lies consumes truth daily. Careful you don't choke. Men. Ned answered, equally soft. Truth stands even if strangled. You, however, slip on your own silk. Baelish turned on heel, cloak snapping. Varys exhaled. You have roused lions. Guard your throat, Lord Stark. That evening Robert raged, tired, hungover. Pressured by Cersei, he dismissed accusations as petty rivalries. Ned stood firm. My life has been targeted thrice. Coin and ledgers point at Petyr. Robert grumbled, but allowed inquiry by Sir Barristan and city justiciars. Temporary house arrest for Baelish. Meanwhile, Petyr prepared countermove. From his manse he penned letters to river lords. hinting Ned sought to seize River Run via marriage to Sansa, that Starks conspired with Tullys to upend throne. Messengers scattered. Bran saw glimpses, ravens bearing slander north, east-wide. He told Luwin. Maester sighed. Baelish wields rumor as sword. Hard to parry all. Bran tried anyway. He slipped into ravens mid-flight, steering some off-course into storms. 2 crashed into Stepstone's waves, scrolls lost. Another he guided to Summerhall Rookery, where maesters confused by false seal held missives for study. Bran's head ached from effort, but joy thrummed. He, a boy in bed, bent wings and thwarted lies, yet one raven reached River Run. Sir Edmure Tully frowned, reading Baelish's script. Troubled, he sought Bryndon's counsel. The Blackfish, skeptical, advised caution. Still, doubt sparked. At Winterfell, Robb convened Great Hall. Bannerman, restless. News of assassin and Baelish arrest filtered via riders. Lord Roose Bolton, pale eyes hooded, questioned reliability of such claims. Lord Manderley pledged support. Tension Vinet. Bran, perched near dais, sensed shifting loyalties. He wished he could speak dream truths to each lord, but prophecy rarely convinced the living. Storm clouds thickened across Westeros. Tywin's banners mustering, Riverlands anxious, Baratheon brothers uneasy. In King's Landing, Ned paced ramparts, thinking of Winterfell snow and warm hearths. He missed Bran's laughter, Robb's sparring boasts, Catelyn's firm counsel. A raven landed on his wrist. Varys doing, bearing Bran's latest dream of ravens diverted. Ned smiled bittersweet. His boy fought wars of ink and wind. Midnight, thunder cracked. Baelish slipped from guarded manse through secret tunnel, bribes greasing palms. He met men in ragged cloaks along river, boarded skiff, bound to Maidenpool. His mind churned. New plan, seek alliance with Tywin, promise stark ruin. He mulled. Letters, resources. Yet as boat gentle rocked, he dozed, and a faint cawing stirred him. A raven perched mast, eyes eerily intelligent, watching. Baelish shooed. Bird remained. Unease gnawed. Bran rode that raven, feeling air whip feathers. He glimpsed Baelish asleep, scrolls beside. He pecked once at Petter's hand. The man startled awake, cursed. The boatman laughed about ill omens. Baelish flung small knife. Raven dodged, soaring into darkness. Bran felt surge of triumph. At dawn, Ned learned Petter fled. He convened small council, furious. Cersei feigned innocence. Robert signed order declaring Baelish traitor until trial. Sir Barristan dispatched gold cloaks to close gates. Too late. Petter already beyond. Ned wrote long letter to Robb. Raise watch on neck. Baelish may head north to sow discord. Guard Bran. His gift lights our path. He sealed wax, direwolf imprint deep. In Winterfell, Bran practiced warging short flights, guided by Luwin's careful regimen. Small sparrow hops at first, then crow glides. Each time he returned, exhaustion nipped, but skill solidified. Still, old Nan fretted. Boy slips further from skin, she muttered. One crisp morning summer alerted to riders at King's Road Gate. Dot. Robb rode out, sword at thigh. Among riders, a girl cloaked blue, face streaked with dust. Kyra. She sought audience with Bran, carrying torn scrap, bearing crude drawing of wolf embraced by crow. Bran met her in Solar. She knelt, offered seal pouch. Inside, a chipped sapphire dagger pommel. Last proof, she murmured. The Selsail feared you. He carried this until gold changed tail. I stole it. Bran thanked her, promised safe hearth. Robb assigned her quarters. The pommel glinted. Bran recalled first dream, dagger chipped then mended, 3 wolves guarding. He realized chip matched mark in forged ledgers where coin diverted. Baelish's signature flourish resembled jagged line, identical to crack on pommel. Bran summoned Luwin. They examined under glass, comparing to ledgers Jory earlier sent north. Indeed, flourish mimicked chip. Bran felt certainty. Baelish left secret signature upon both steel and ink. Arrogant breadcrumb. Raven flew south bearing sketch of pommel and ledger comparison. Ned received on balcony at dusk, sky bruised with violet. Stannis stood with him, having arrived from Dragonstone unsummoned. News of treachery lured him. Ned showed proof. Stannis' mouth tightened. Bring this before Robert. He can't ignore. Ned nodded, heart heavy yet hopeful. The next dawn they prepared. Yet that night, Robert embarked on drunken hunt outside city, urged by Cersei, delay tactic. He left orders for council to proceed. Ned and Stannis waited restless. Morrow brought worse. Messenger from Wayfarer's Rest, Riverlands raids by Lannister outriders, fields burned. War on cusp. Ned faced crossroad. Honor cried to resign his hand, gather north. Duty to realm urged stay and tame chaos. He thought of Bran's vow, candle in storm. Ned clenched jaw. He would not snuff flame by fleeing. He called council, declared intent to reveal Baelish plot, publicly, in Sept of Baelor upon Robert's return. Varys supported quietly. Renly offered subtle nod. Cersei's eyes flashed. Days whirled, banners fluttered, spies scurried. Ravens beat feverishly. Bran watched each night, sometimes crow, sometimes direwolf, once even riding a hawk above tumultuous sea, where Baelish's skiff skirted storms toward Harrenhal ruins. He sensed Pedder's scheming letters to Tywin, promises of political chaos if Lannister forces marched now. Bran tried steering hawk to intercept messenger pigeon over marsh. He collided mid-air. Scroll tumbled into bog. One letter lost. Progress, but more flew Dotty. In the neck, Howland Reed's Cranagman spied unusual relocations. Boats gliding silent, bearing coin chests. They captured one courier, clutching mockingbird seal. Reed sent fast rider to Winterfell. Robb sharpened swords. Once Bran dreamt deeper still. A green sea where dappled light flickered like stars underwater, and beneath roots of weirwood an ancient face opened blank eyes. A voice older than language rippled. Truth in dream, but danger in waking. Seeds you plant sprout iron and grief. Yet hold fast, little Greenseer, for storm clears to dawn. Bran woke with tears, unsure if comfort or warning. South, the storm hit. Robert, gored by boar while hunting drunk, returned bleeding. Maesters labored, King whispered last commands. Cersei held pen guiding. Varys hovered. Ned arrived, heart sinking. He saw boar wound but smelt poison in bandages, wine spiced with leaves of purple amaranth. Robert, pale, seized Ned's arm. Rule for my son, he gasped. Ned scrawled, but wrote, rightful heir not Joffrey, suspecting bastardy rumor Stannis brought. Cersei's eyes narrowed. Baelish absence but presence of his schemes lurk. Robert died before dawn. Bells tolled. Chaos erupted. Cersei crowned Joffrey, seized sealing stamp. Ned attempted present will. Baelish's allies among gold cloaks, bought by Slynt earlier, turned. In throne room confrontation, Ned found himself betrayed. Yet his own guard plus Sir Barristan, Renly men, nearly balanced. Varys played neutral. Stannis fled city night prior, warning of trap. Ned now faced choice. Call banners here or withdraw. During tense standoff, horn blasts outside gates rattled windows. Renly's retainers wheeling carriages, poised to spirit Ned away. Joffrey shouted orders. Slynt's men advanced. Barristan interposed. Swords rang. Ned signaled retreat, valuing life for greater war. They fought through corridor. Alan fell. But Ned reached stable, mounted. Chaos of gold cloaks erupted into torchlit melee. In confusion, Varys loosed caged ravens bearing Ned's letters north. Bran felt father's peril mid-dream. Warg pulse like knife across bond. He woke screaming. Wolves howled outside Winterfell, each voice a shard of anguish. Ned galloped through mud gate, arrows whistling, rain pelting. Jory, Hallis, Barristan beside. They split. Barristan led decoy west. Ned veered storm-soaked alley toward river where Renly's barge waited. On board, Caitlin, summoned by Renly, clutched cloak, eyes blazing fear and fury. Boatman pushed off, arrows hissed, sparking water. A bolt grazed Ned's thigh. Pain flared, but he stood firm. Jory rowed, muscles straining. Behind them, city walls glittered with torches, horns braying alarm. Downriver wind tore banners, thunder prowled. At Blackwater mouth Renly's ships awaited, 50 masts, Stormland's griffins painted. Renly clasped Ned's forearm. "No throne for bastards," he swore. "We will seat rightful king." Ned acknowledged, though turmoil churned. Rightful meant Stannis by law, but realm-beloved Renly. Dilemma postponed. Escape first. By dawn, sails billowed south, coastline sliding gray into distance. Ned watched gulls wheel, heart aching. Sansa and Arya held by Lion Den. Bran far away. Yet flame of purpose burned. He carried proofs, allies, father's duty. His wound throbbed. Maester shoved poultice. He thought of Bran. Small yet luminous, guiding ravens. "Hold your candle, son," he whispered into salty wind. "I will hold mine." Hundreds of leagues north, Bran sat within God's wood. Eyes shut, listening to pulse of earth. Snow melted around roots, though air chilled. He envisioned father upon rolling deck, sails snapping, and he sent thought on wind. "We are with you." Summer nudged his hand, confirmation. Overhead, a raven settled on branch, preening. Bran smiled faintly. War loomed dark, but threads of truth now glimmered. Candle flames resisting gale. Days blurred into marches and countermarches. Tywin's host swept riverlands. Baelish rode to Harrenhal, promising alliances, yet rumor of his treachery spread, many refused. In one roadside inn he found note pinned to doorframe, drawing of mockingbird pierced by wolf fang. Petyr paled, pressed coin to burn it. Shadows pursued him. In Winterfell the first banners assembled, Karstark, Umber, Manderley. Robb addressed host from stone steps, voice steady. "Our Lord Father rides for justice. Lions hold our sisters. We march." Cheers echoed. Bran watched, pride mingled with dread. He would remain, but his eyes would travel. Luwin presented, carved weirwood bowl filled with water. "Practice focus," he advised. Bran gazed into still surface, saw flickers of armies, rivers aflame, a throne room drenched in evening sun, where a boy king wept as mother whispered. He blinked, water settled. Sweat dampened brow. The gift heavy, but he would shoulder. One night, Kyra joined him in Godswood. She knelt. "I owe you life," she murmured. Bran shook head. "We owe each other." She spoke of childhood stories of greenseers. Bran confided some secrets. They sat under red leaves until stars sparked. Far south, Ned and Renly reached Storm's End. Stannis arrived from Dragonstone, jaw like granite. The brothers' camps eyed each other across courtyard. Ned stood mediator, presenting Robert's will. Bran's ledger proof, Baelish conspiracy. Stannis accepted evidence grimly, declared Joffrey usurper, named himself King Dor. Renly objected. Realm would prefer him. Ned proposed council to unite. War against Lannister first, decide crown after. Brothers glared. Alliance fragile, yet enemy stronger forced truce. Ravens flew. To Robb. To Mace Tyrell, to Dorne. War lines spiderwebbed. Through each Bran's unseen wings fluttered, guiding some, hindering others. He felt tides shifting but could not foresee all eddies. Summer came early to northern valleys, the war-chilled air. Bran rode estate, on Hodor's back, greeting farmers, sharing courage. Children followed shouting. He told them tales of brave ravens and sleeping kings beneath trees. They laughed, unaware those tales edged truth. In quiet hours Bran returned to crypts. There he met dreams of future battles, fires devouring city walls, winter wolves racing across Trident, mockingbird banner torn and cast into snow. He did not yet know which would come to pass. But he learned to listen deeper, distinguish echo from omen. Each night he placed candle by window, flame steady against wind. Somewhere beyond horizons his father did likewise, and between two flames stretched invisible thread, glowing, unbroken, forged of dream and love and iron northern will. PGSQL. Dawn came to Storm's End draped in wind-shredded banners of rose and gray, the sea beneath the castle cliffs writhing like a wounded serpent that had tasted its own rage and would not die. Along the ancient ramparts, pocked by siege stones, crusted with salt, the guards of Renly Baratheon stood at uneasy watch beside those of his elder brother Stannis, bright golden roses interspersed with the stark crescent moon of House Baratheon. Their cloaks snapped and tangled in the same keening gusts, yet no easy fellowship had taken root beneath shared colors. Between camps, a narrow strand of neutral ground was churned to mud, trampled by wary emissaries and restless horses. War had not yet spilled blood upon the sod here, but it breathed on every man's collar, hot and impatient. Ned Stark felt that breath when he emerged from the maester's turret overlooking the inner yard. His wounded thigh throbbed beneath fresh linen, the puncture knitted but tender. Though he would not limp before the southern hosts, he felt the muscled ache with each downward step of the spiral. At the turret's base, Sir Davos Seaworth awaited, gray-flecked beard and honest eyes a comforting anchor amid scheming tides. Davos bowed with a hand to heart. "Lord Hand," he greeted, using the title though Ned had half renounced it on the flight from King's Landing. "I think the city has another hand now," Ned answered, voice dry. "Gold-cloaked, perhaps serpentine." Davos did not smile. A man of the sea who measured jests like storms. "Ser Barristan's outriders returned," he reported. "Dust rises on the Rose Road. Lord Mace Tyrell marches north with 20,000. Men at Scarrow." Ned glanced toward the western battlements where Renly's banners fluttered, the golden rose of Highgarden entwined with Renly's stag. "Your lord will be pleased," he said, though pleasure in these alignments felt brittle. He had labored to persuade both brothers to stand against Joffrey's coup and Baelish's webs. Yet they differed in every breath. Stannis held law before loyalty. Renly placed hearts before crowns. Ned, for his part, weighed blood and hearth and the cries of children in towers far away. "And Tywin?" he asked. "Word travels that Sir Jaime has seized River Run," Davos said, voice low. "Edmure in chains. Lord Tywin's host crosses the Red Fork. River Run. Balin." Ned swallowed a pang. Catelyn's kin in peril, swords rattling so near. "And Robb?" he pressed. Davos offered a parchment, edges fluttering. "Raven 2 nights past. He has crossed the Twins. Lord Frey's bridges stand behind him. 20,000 Northmen advance." Ned's heart clenched in equal measure of pride and fear. His boy had become a wolf of war. He read the brief message again. Robb's square hand. "Steady. We ride for Riverlands. Trust the old gods. Sisters will be freed." Then beneath, a smaller scroll from Maester Luwin. "Bran's dreams continue to guide. Sansa remains in King's Landing, Arya's whereabouts uncertain. Bran's spirit, strong." Ned folded the parchment carefully, as though it were a living thing. "The gods watch us all," he murmured. Then, with a nod to Davos, he crossed the yard toward the council hall, where Stannis and Renly awaited an uneasy conclave. Rain had ceased, leaving the air hard and salt-sharp. Fishermen's children darted between supply wagons, sticky with honeyed fig and wonder at so many nights. Ned's northern garb, gray cloak, direwolf pin carved from weirwood, drew their stares like distant snowfall. Inside the hall, the Baratheon brothers stood at opposite extremes of a long oaken table littered with maps, wine cups, and 3 half-melted candles, whose wax had run like pale blood rivulets. Renly lounged in green velvet trimmed with gold thread. Casual, courteous, his smile concealed edges. Stannis wore plain leather, unadorned, his jaw clenched as if each word had to chew through stone first. Between them, Maester Cresson fussed with inkpots, while Sir Barristan Selmy kept silent watch near the hearth. Ned took a place near one battered map of the Blackwater and its twisting tributaries. "My lords," he said, offering a nod that tried to bridge the distance between them. Tywin Lannister moves east. Jaime holds River Run. The boy upon the Iron Throne sits atop borrowed steel and poisoned rumor. If ever we were to stand united, it is now. Nashro. United, Renly echoed, turning a wine cup between slim fingers. A fine word. Only we disagree on which banner will top the mast when victory comes. Stannis' eyes burned with a weary, righteous flame. The law names me king. The Iron Throne is not a prize to be won by flattery of reachlords or pretty smiles. It is my right, by Robert's will and the succession. Renly brushed a speck of dust from his cloak. And the realm will cheer how loudly, brother, to see dour Stannis crowned? They will choke on ceremony while starving in streets. The people love me. He glanced at Ned. Hearts matter as much as laws. Ned raised a hand. Brothers, this quarrel serves our enemy. Bend pride for a breath. Rescue the Riverlands, break the lions, save the small folk. Then, if necessary, draw lots for the crown. Law is not a lot. Stannis snapped. Renly's smile slipped to irritation. And the people's love is not wind. It shields against rebellion. Enough, Ned said, voice carrying northern iron. The room quieted. Robb marches south, Tywin east. If we delay, the Riverlands burn, and the north stands alone. I propose we bind our swords to liberate River Run first. Afterward, the lords of Westeros may choose their king in council. He looked from one Baratheon to the other. Call it a great council, as after the dance. Law and love both may stand trial then. Renly's brows arched. Queen Alysanne's grand compromise, centuries old, it nearly broke the realm. But it ended war, Ned said, and kept dragons from swallowing half the country. Stannis folded arms. A great council is outside precedent while a rightful heir still lives. Precedent dies in the jaws of lions, Ned retorted, surprising himself with harshness. Would you rather the realm echo with orphaned screams than yield one mood of lords? Stannis' glare simmered, but he nodded once. I will pledge my fleet and sword to liberate Riverlands. No council talk until Lannisters subdued. Renly considered, then extended hand across table. Done. After Tywin bleeds, we settle which Baratheon sits the chair. Stannis clasped, eyes narrow as flint. A tremor, like muted thunder, rippled through the hall. The shifting of history's hinge. They spent hours mapping vectors. Stannis' galleys carrying supplies upriver from the sea. Renly's Rainbow Guard securing fords across the Mander. Ned advising on northern tactics. How to bait Tywin to open field. Deny him pillage that fed his host. Ser Barristan added counsel gleaned from Robert's war. Tywin spares his strength until strike will break spine. They planned to converge on the Gold Road, catching Lannisters between Robb's advance and Baratheon pincer. Time, weather, and grain stocks would judge. When meeting adjourned near dusk, Ned found Catelyn waiting beneath a stone archway. Lantern light painted warm amber tones across her weary face. Sea wind teased her auburn hair free of net. She took his arm. You spoke strongly, she said as they descended a stair overlooking the stables. Too strongly, Ned replied. But ice cracks. Sometimes hammer must fall. He drew her close. News from Winterfell? Another letter from Bran. She produced a folded scrap. Ned opened. The boy's handwriting steadier now, but edges smudged as if fingers trembled. Dream of river on fire. Golden green banners burn. Gray direwolf howls, but is not silenced. I hear father's voice across water. Hold fast. Beneath, Maester Luwin had annotated. Bran's visions intensified during new moon. He maintains clarity afterward, shows no signs of fever. Ned sighed, heart twisting between hope and ache. He sees too much for a child, Catelyn murmured. Yet, I cannot wish him blind. His sight saved you. Twice now. Ned brushed her cheek. I would trade any vision for his safe laughter. He folded the note, slid it into inner pocket. I must ride at dawn with Renly to inspect the vanguard. We march within the 10-day. Catelyn withdrew a slender dagger from beneath her cloak. Chipped sapphire hilt glinting. Kyrus relic, she said. Maester Crescent examined it. The blade itself is castle forged, not cheap. Each chip along the edge matches scribe mark upon Baelish's forged ledgers. Ned turned weapon in hand. Even dull candlelight shivered up its steel. His vanity leaves fingerprints everywhere. He tucked dagger into belt. Let us see if Tywin values such evidence should Baelish seek his banner. They parted under watchful moon. Catelyn sought the modest chambers assigned her. Ned returned to the council hall for one last glance at maps. There he found Sir Barristan cleaning his blade, face pensive. I failed, Robert, the old knight murmured without greeting. I should have shielded him from his own vices, as you tried through counsel. Ned clasped Sir Barristan's shoulder. No man can shield a king from himself. Robert chose his path. Now we must guard his realm. Barristan sheathed sword. Then I march with you, Lord Stark. Not with the boy on the throne. King's words be damned. The realm will remember, Ned said softly. South of the Stormlands, the King's Road wound like a scar through fertile meadows now trampled by boot and hoof. On a ridge above its curve, Pettyr Baelish drew rein, sweat darkening the collar of his dove-gray doublet. His escort, a handful of household guards whose loyalty he had purchased with promise of lands, waited at a respectful distance while he surveyed smoke columns smudging the horizon. Harrenhal's shattered spires lay beyond, ravens wheeling like flies over carrion. Baelish's smile curved thin. History devoured itself here. He would gather the bones. He turned to a squire. Right ahead. Inform lady went that Lord Baelish requests sanctuary for the night. The squire hesitated, glancing at black clouds. She keeps but skeleton garrison, Baelish assured. Fear not ghosts. Yet, as the youth galloped off, Pettyr's own nerves tingled. Rumor of mockingbird-pierced wolf had traveled fast. Small folk whispered that northern magic tracked treachery. Baelish pressed spurs, determined to stay ahead of shadows. At Winterfell, Bran sat cross-legged by the Godswood pool, surface still as hammered bronze. Kyra knelt opposite, her calloused hands folded, expression intent. Luwin watched from a respectful distance, scribbling. Bran breathed slow, feeling heartbeat align with Earth's deeper pulse. Across the water his reflection trembled. Boy's face, wolf's eyes, crown of red leaves. He lowered lids. Sight plunged outward like a falcon stooping. He skimmed above leagues of forest, cloud, and stone. Rivers unrolled silver ribbons. Campfires winked like orange eyes. He saw Tywin's host. At edge of dusk he found it. A crimson serpent coil of wagons and pikes marching east beneath lion banners. He saw prisoners shambling chained, torches burning farms. Fury flared. Vision lurched closer. He perched upon standard, unseen, listening. Lord Tywin's son, Sir Kevan, rode near, discussing scouts lost near Stone Mill. A rider spoke of northern outriders ghosting through woods, howling like beasts. Wolves in men's skins, another joked, half afraid. Tywin dismissed fears, but posted double watch. A chance. Bran sank from sky into camp among raven murder feasting on spilled grain. He borrowed one raven's eyes. Through its beak he croaked warning above tents. Winter. Soldiers flung stones, spooked. It was small mischief, but heartened Bran. He winged north again. He found Robb's host at Oxcross Edge. Fires low, discipline firm. In Central Pavilion, Robb bent over maps with Great John Umber, Roose Bolton, and Grey Wind curling behind. Bran perched upon ridge, listening to voices, though distance blurred words. He felt Grey Wind sense him. Wolf looked upwards into star-washed dark, lips parted in quiet whine. Connection tugged. Bran withdrew, heart pounding. He woke beside pool, chest heaving. Kyra's hand steadied his. "What did you see?" she whispered. Bran recounted briefly. Luwin hurried to fetch parchment. Bran hesitated. Should he reveal ability to perch within ravens? Luwin suspected, but caution held. He spoke of Tywin's march, of farmland burning, but not of his direct meddling. Luwin nodded gravely. Scribbled for ravens. When Bran finally rested, dreams followed unsummoned. He drifted along a river ablaze with reflected fire, saw armored knights wading crimson shallows, heard steel on steel. Amid smoke, he glimpsed a girl with sand-colored hair, Arya, darting between overturned carts, clutching a brown sack. A hand reached for her. She plunged into water and vanished beneath ripples. Bran gasped awake, calling for Arya, but only stone walls echoed. Candle stubs sputtered. He pressed palms over eyes, uncertain if sister lived or ghosted. 2 dawns later, Renly's vanguard rode from Storm's End. Rainbow guarded its head, the cobalt armor of Sir Loras Tyrell, shining, Sir Brienne of Tarth towering, in blue steel, Sir Aemon Cui with white plume. Stannis' disciplined columns followed hour behind, black sails catching morning light like wings of silent crows. Ned rode at Renly's side, pain dulled by Maester's powder. The road north smelled of pine and churned mud. Footmen sang songs of Storm's fury. Knights jested about Tyrell larders stuffed with lemon cakes. Ned remained watchful, counting banners. Oaken quarters of Oakheart, rising sun of Florent, burning heart of Lady Melisandre, who rode behind Stannis, eyes smoldering. Her presence unsettled northern men. Whispers called her Fire Witch. Ned kept distance. They reached Bitterbridge, where Mace Tyrell's host encamped beneath fields of pink wildflowers, tents fragrant with spiced wine and song. Mace, florid and pleased, greeted Renly like returning prodigal. Stannis bristled. They spent night arguing supply lines. Ned brokered compromises. Tyrell wagons would feed Stannis men. Stannis' fleet would bear Tyrell infantry upstream. That evening, Ned walked alone along Riverside, needing cool air. Frogs croaked. Reeds bent under breeze. A flicker caught his eye. Torch far down an embankment. He approached quietly, hand on hilt. 2 cloaked figures spoke in hushed Valyrian. Ned recognized one. Melisandre, hair copper flame. The other, shorter, carried curious cane carved with dragons. They discussed the song of ice and fire, a prince reborn, a northern boy with wolf dreams. Ned's skin prickled. Melisandre's red eyes turned as though sensing him. He melted back into shadows, unsettled. At dawn, Tyrell horns rang. The grand host wheeled west toward the Gold Road. Birds scattered before them. War, once ghost, now strode in mailed boots. Meanwhile, in King's Landing, Queen Cersei presided over court draped in mourning black. Sir Ilyn Payne executed ravens suspected of carrying treason. Sansa Stark knelt before the throne daily, reciting courtesies, her child's face pale. She wrote letters to brothers, but each was seized. Arya, rumor said, had vanished into docks, perhaps dead. Cersei cared little. Arya was bargaining chip lost. She focused on shaping Joffrey into weapon against Baratheon's Stark alliance. Yet her spies whispered worry. Gold shipments delayed, coin coffers thinning. Baelish missing meant finances unraveling. She summoned Grand Maester Pycelle, demanded solutions. Pycelle offered counsel of loans. Cersei spat. Loans buy time, not victory. She eyed map where pins marked Lannister and Baratheon armies converging. She resolved to lure Stark girl into public plea for peace. Display to fracture rebels. Sansa's tears would be sword. In secret, she ordered building of new wildfire stockpiles beneath Guildhall of the Alchemists. Baelish, for his part, reached Harrenhal's gaping entry by twilight. Lady Went, pale and fearful, welcomed him to a chamber whose ceiling dripped old rain. Petyr offered silken assurances. Royal favor, lion protection. Went's eyes flickered to cracks in walls. Baelish wandered apartments once graced by Aegon's banners. Ghosts of charred princes whispered in corridors. That night, he plotted letters to Tywin, proposed marriage to Lysa Arryn, secure Vale's neutrality in exchange for Riverland's stewardship. Ambition spread like spilled ink. Yet outside Harrenhal Marsh, Howland Reed's Crannogman stalked, having shadowed Mockingbird banners. They watched Petyr's torch cross courtyard, noted guards' numbers. At Moon's Peak, Reed's son Jogen slipped through Reed Labyrinth into Castle Ruin, leaving pale feathers as trail for ravens. One such feather, bound to Reed Shaft, carried message north, Mockingbird in Hall of Shadows. Fear's wolf dreams. Robb Stark received the feather on March near Stonehenge. He smiled grimly. Then let him learn what wolves dream. Grey wind barked agreement, breath pluming in frosty pre-dawn. As armies churned, the small folk of Riverlands fled fields. One huddle of peasants camped near a half-ruined sept, where a lean girl guided them, hair chopped, ragged, brown eyes fierce. Arya Stark kept named secret, calling herself Nymeria. She had escaped the Red Keep by Watergate, stowed on fisher skiff, walked roads under storm and fear. Her sack held needle wrapped in torn leather, and a clay flute an acrobat had gifted. She led children and grandmothers alike, teaching them to hide when lions foraged. At night she told them tales of Nymeria's 1,000 ships and brave wolves. In dream, she felt Bran calling, distant tug like a drum underwater. One such night, Bran indeed sought Arya. He glided through treetops until he found a flicker of wolf spirit, Nymeria the direwolf, roaming near God's Eye. But Nymeria could not catch Arya's scent. They had parted long before. Bran whispered through leaves, urging Nymeria southwest. The great wolf lifted muzzle, howled and waded into Black River to follow invisible pull. Arya, miles away, woke smiling, though she did not know why. At Bitterbridge, Ned's combined army marched north by east, columns of spearmen glistening. Scouts reported Toy near Sherer, his host slowed by swollen river. Rendezvous with Robb predicted within 15 days. The air crackled. Storm inside lungs of every soldier. 3 nights before Gold Road meeting, Bran's dream burned bright. Fields ripening under cruel sun, Tywin's lion banners pinned by crosswind, northerners bursting from woods howling. He saw Robb's sword raise, watched arrows arc like black hail. He saw a flash of rose banners emerging behind Lannister flank, Renly's charge. The field became maelstrom of armor and blood. Amid tumult, Bran glimpsed Baelish creeping edge of battlefield, consulting scrolls. He also saw, to north, Bolton men holding back, eyes hooded. Grey wind leapt, fang tearing through chainmail. Roose Bolton's gaze calculating. Bran woke, heart-bruising ribs. In letter to Robb he warned, trust not every man wearing direwolf. Maester Luwin tilted head but sent Raven. On Gold Road's crest, Tywin scouts spied dust of joint Baratheon-Stark advance. Tywin smiled thinly. He split cavalry under Suradam Marbrand, sending west to harry supply. Then he dug trenches laced with caltrops. When dawn bled, battlefield awaited. Robb's outriders hit trenches first. Horses screamed. Grey wind darted through smoke, guiding men to gaps. Drums rolled. Horns blared. Renly's vanguard thundered from south as planned, lances glinting. Lannister lines pivoted, red cloaks billowing. Tywin watched from palanquin, expression statuesque. Ned rode with Baratheon men into left wing crush. His leg wound ached, but adrenaline drowned pain. He swung Longsword Icebright, remembering Robert's war. Around him Stormlanders roared, Storm's End. Lions answered, Casterly Rock. Steel clashed like tempests. Ser Loras unhorsed Sir Davin Lannister. Sir Gregor Clegane cut through Tyrell pikemen before Brienne intercepted, blades spitting sparks. In northern column, Robb urged Greysire forward, voice carrying, Tully banners to center. Umbers clockwise. Greyjohn bellowed, hacking path, issued orders for flanking. Bolton knights held rear, eyes cold. Bran, miles away, felt wolf sight seize him without call. He became grey wind, senses ringing. He felt the thrill of charge, wind whipping muzzle, blood hot. He saw Robb's sword descend on gilded helm. Saw Lannister's shield split, tasted copper scent. Through wolf eyes Bran noticed Bolton banner idling behind, men, motionless. He lunged towards Bolton ranks. Roose Bolton met Wolf's gaze, expression unreadable. Grey wind snarled. Bolton's mounts stamped but did not advance. On ridge, Tywin released hidden reserve. Elite knights under Sir Kevin, cresting hill like iron wave. They smashed Renly's right flank. Panic rippled. Ned saw stag banners falter, shouted to reform lines. He caught glimpse of Stannis advancing personally, sword ablaze in dawn. Melisandre's standard followed. Scarlet flames. The press thickened. Behind Ned, Lannister archers loosed, one shaft sinking into his pauldron, staggering him. Before another could strike, Ser Barristan intercepted, shield raised. "Get back, Lord Stark." Ned gritted, pressed on. On the field's far edge, Baelish lurked among spare horses, observing flows. He spied Bolton hesitation and smiled. Chaos as confidant. He signaled messenger to ride to Bolton. "Hold back. Let lions and roses bleed. Reward awaits." The messenger spurred. Yet above, a raven shrieked, and dove. Bran guided it. It attacked horse's eye. Beast reared, messenger thrown. Scroll tumbled. Gray wind bounded across melee, jaws closing on parchment. He pivoted, delivered to Robb, who yanked wet scroll read. Bolton message. Fury ignited. Robb turned on Roose, voice thundered. "You ride or hang." Bolton's pale eyes flickered calculation. Then he signaled charge. Dreadfort spears thundered into Lannister left. Evening scales. Tywin saw and cursed softly. But battle's tide now churned wild. Baratheon fleet's crossbow barges on river fired bolts tipped with laced tar. Sails of Lannister supply even further back ignited when Stannis signaled fire arrow. Smoke billowed. Amid chaos, Ned found himself face to face with Sir Kevan. They traded furious blows. Kevan's sword slid along Ned's, sparks singing. Ned's old strength held. He clipped Kevan's helm, staggering Lord. But a third knight barreled from flank. Sir Forley Prester, his mace shattering Ned's shield rim. Ned reeled, blood seeping. Barristan arrived, parried next blow, allowing Ned to slip aside. Rain, withheld so long, finally broke. Fat drops hissing on hot armor, turning dust to paste. Screams dulled underwater roar. Tywin's trumpet sounded retreat to prepared fallback across trenches. But Robb's outriders cut between. Renly's Rainbow Guard pushed center. Stannis himself dismounted, leading assault with fiery sword, rumored blessed by Red God. Lannister lines buckled. Far back, Baelish realized tide turning. He mounted spare palfrey, slipped downslope toward forest. A northern outrider, Mage Mormont's daughter, Daisy, spotted him, gave pursuit. Pettier raced among trees, heart hammering. He cut through briars into abandoned croft. Daisy barged after, axe flashing. Baelish faked left, slashed horse's neck of her mount. Beast crashed, Daisy rolled clear, leaping. They circled in rain-slapped ruin. Pettier stabbed. She blocked, kicked knee. He stumbled. She advanced. Then arrow whistled. One of Pettier's guards hidden parted leaves and shot. Daisy fell, armor ringing. Baelish fled deeper. Rain swallowed hoofbeats. At sunset horns cried victory. Lannister host shattered. Some escaped east with Tywin. Others surrendered where they stood. Battlefield stewed with corpses. Banners limp. Ned dismounted stiffly. Survey grim. Robb found him, cheeks streaked mud and tears. Father and son clasped bracer to bracer, amid groans of wounded. Gray wind padded, amber eyes watchful. Renly and Stannis met near hilltop, neither smiling though triumph theirs. Tyrell knights cheered petals thrown. Men of Storm's End raised stag horns. But tension flared as Renly's men chanted. "King Renly," Stannis retorted. Ned stepped between again. Victory owed to both. "We stand not at council yet," he said. They sheathed grudges for now. That night, campfires speckled hills like fallen stars. Maesters tended wounded. Silent sisters walked ranks with cloth and mercy. Ned sat outside his tent, leg redressed, looking north where smoke smudged twilight. Catelyn approached, offered fresh cloth to wipe blade. "Bran will have seen this," she whispered. Ned nodded. "I hope his dreams spare the worst." They sat companionably, silent, listening to far-off dirge of river frogs. At Winterfell, Bran sensed the victory, though the taste carried iron bitterness. He dreamed of river on fire again, but flames dimming under rain. Wolves howled triumph, yet in shadows mockingbirds still flitted. He saw Baelish riding forest alone, face streaked by fear and hate. He also saw a boy king screaming at empty throne, wildfire green behind eyes. Bran awoke before dawn, knowing peace remained distant. Dawn over battlefield revealed charred wagons, broken caltrops like black thorns. Robb held council with river lords rescued from Jaime's gauntlet. Edmure, bruised but unbowed, thanked him with weary pride. Word arrived. Jaime retreated toward King's Landing, carrying few thousand. Tywin sheltered at Harrenhal, furious. Robb asked father's guidance. Pursue? Ned considered. King's Landing remained threat, sisters hostage, wildfire rumor. We march, he said. But not blindly. Tywin must not regroup. Renly's men are swift. Stannis' fleet may cut river crossings. They agreed. Stannis would press east along Blackwater. Renly and Robb converge south of capital. Yet cracks spidered in alliance. Renly's banner contested succession. Stannis refused delay of council beyond capital's fall. Ned sought compromise. Planned to besiege city, starve Lannisters until Queen parley. But Stannis favored direct assault. Renly desired coronation spectacle to sway city hearts. Tensions simmered. In secret, Varys' little birds carried note to Ned's camp. Wildfire caches beneath Guildhall, ready to burn city if siege drawn. Ned shivered, recalled Mad King's final threat. Another note claimed, Joffrey executed smallfolk for jeering at balcony. The city bled inside walls. On the road, Arya led her ragtag travelers toward the Trident. Hearts set on rendezvous with Northern Army. They crossed burnt farms, found corpses strung as warnings. At dusk, they reached in where Lion soldiers caroused. Arya slipped inside, eavesdropped, talk of wildfire plan, of pyromancers mixing vats. She stole loaf of bread, slipped away. That night, she etched memory in dirt map. Companies converged near Stony Sept weeks later. Ned's coalition now swollen. Scouts reported King's Landing gates shut, gold cloaks nervous. A raven from Sansa, smuggled by old kitchen servant, reached Robb. She pleaded with father to end bloodshed. Said Queen threatened to wed her to Joffrey at once. Ned swallowed guilt. He promised rescue. Bran's dream shifted to capital. Stone dragon roosts cracked by green flame, bells tolling shattered song. He saw a tall knight of Kingsguard, Sir Sandor, carrying Sansa through smoke. He saw Arya atop wall striking spark on powder keg. Futures blurred. He told Maester. Ravens flew again. Final march began. Stannis' fleet rode upriver, black sails crowding water. Renly's cavalry cut to Stormland's roads. Robb steered northern column along Roserway Dot. Ned rode at center, heart heavy but resolute. From rampart shadows, city looked like slumbering beast, towers jutting against ash-tinged sky. Ziga lines formed. Stannis erected catapults. Renly spread tents of green silk. Northern archers dug ditches. Ned sent envoy, Sir Barristan bearing Robert's sword. Demand Queen's surrender. Free Stark girls yield throne to lawful council. Tower doors closed in refusal. Joffrey appeared upon battlements, flinging insults. Behind him, pyromancers carried bronze jars glowing sickly. That night, Ned wandered camp, checking ditches. He found Melisandre on riverbank, eyes reflecting firepots floating from ship toward walls. She murmured, "Night is dark and full of terrors. The Boy King's fire will consume those who cling to false steel, yet a greater darkness rises beyond." Ned studied her, half frightened, half curious. "If you know threat, speak plainly," he said. She smiled as though at riddle. "A cold shadow moves in far north. Your son senses it. Flames show me dire wolves beneath swirl of snow like pale spiders. All these wars are but cinders before winter's breath." Ned shivered, though summer still clung. "Then we fight here to protect realm from that winter. Without realm, no wall stands. Choose your fires wisely," she answered, walking away, red robes trailing sparks of torchlight. Across battlements, Tyrion Lannister now served as King's hand. He argued with Cersei that wildfire would slaughter their own. She insisted, Tyrion plotted secret escape tunnel for Sansa. He felt pity for Girl. A plan formed, trade Sansa for truce, but Queen refused. In Harrenhal, Tywin fumed at defeat, berated Baelish, now supplicant, yet decided to ride relief to capital. Pettier offered route through Kingswood to flank Baratheon lines. Tywin considered, demanded hostages to ensure loyalty. Baelish promised River Run prisoners. Tywin agreed. They marched. Cranogman scouts reported Lannister relief, on move. Bran fast-traveled Dream to warn father. Golden Host through Kingswood within 4 days. Raven sped. Ned consulted Stannis and Renly. Stannis insisted stand ground siege. Renly volunteered to intercept in Kingswood with mobile cavalry. Plan accepted. Ned prayed tensions not erupt. 2 mornings later, Renly's army broke camp pre-dawn. Battle horns faded beneath trees. Ned remained, watching black sails unload siege towers. A hush draped camp until midday when messenger galloped. Renly slain in his tent, throat cut, half army in chaos. Shock rippled. Rumors wild. Shadow with king's face, murdered by Brienne in rage. Assassins of Tyrell faith. Stannis men whispered blessing of Red God. Tyrell forces rode away south with Loras, abandoning siege. Ned reeled, alliance fracturing. He confronted Stannis. The Lord denied foul play but accepted tragedy as God's judgment. Ned glared. War won by blades, not sorcery. Stannis answered cold. Blades forged of truth. They parted under clouds heavy like tomb doors. That same dusk Tywin's host attacked Renly's leaderless forces, scattering them, then wheeled north to relieve city. Stannis prepared to fight on river. Ned reluctantly aided. Battle of Blackwater approached different than history. No wildfire plan by Tyrion, but Queen stockpiles threatened. Inside city, Sansa prayed in sept, tears on marble. Arya infiltrated through sewer grate with band of refugees, needle in hand. Tyrion arranged meeting but wildfire caches already lined docks. Pressure rose. Bran's visions grew frantic. 1,000 branching fires. One showed dragon shadow crossing sky east. Another, snow burying Winterfell while red comets split heavens. He spoke to Maester. Luwin's eyes reflected fear. On eve of battle, Ned wrote letters. To Bran, hold to light. To Robb, if father falls, protect sisters. To Catelyn, my heart's home. Catelyn read without tears. She donned mail beneath cloak, ready to ride with Healer Corps. Tywin's golden tide clashed with Stannis' black ships south of city. Stannis galleys blocked river mouth. Catapults hurled stone. Archers rained shafts. Ned commanded northern flank. Hearts beating in thunder of hooves. Cannons of wildfire on city walls belched green flame downward, devouring Stannis boats as pyromancers cackled. Smoke towered. Amid maelstrom, Arya guided refugees toward palace dungeons, seeking Sansa Deadeye. She encountered Sandor Clegane, burnt helm soot black. Eyes haunted. He spared her, joined quest, drawn by hate of fire. They fought through gold cloak knots, found Sansa seized by Cersei for pyre hostage. Sandor battled twin guards. Arya cut ropes. Freed, sister. Girls embraced. Outside, the river ran black-green. Aflame, Ned saw Stannis overrun on decks, men plunging. Tywin's vanguard crossed causeway. Northerners pressed but outnumbered. Suddenly horns blew from north bank. Robb's reserve smashing Tywin's flank, gray wind leading. Battle swirled unpredictably. Bran's sword raven above, weaving through smoke, guiding northern arrows onto wildfire carts before they rolled. One such cart exploded behind Lannister line, sowing panic. He risked deeper dive, felt heat sear feathers. Pain lanced into real body, jarring him awake. Kyra dabbed water on his brow where blister rose. Night tore across Blackwater, though sun not yet set. Smoke blotted sky. Tyrion led sortie across River Gate, driving wedge to split Stannis in two in lines, playing all sides. He shouted for ceasefire before wildfire destroyed all. His men dragged Pyromancer out, slit throat. Amid confusion, Ned's horse went down under crossbow bolt. He rolled, dazed. A shadow loomed. Sir Gregor Clegane raising, flanged mace. Ned tried rise but knee buckled. Then grey wind crashed into Gregor's side, teeth sinking. Robb followed, sword stabbing seam in Gregor's gorget. The mountain roared, flung wolf. But Robb hammered pommel into visor. Ned crawled clear as sun and monster traded blows. Finally, a glint of Valyrian steel, Neen's fallen sword, Robb kicked up, drove into Gregor's armpit. The giant toppled. Above walls, gold lion banner sagged, half set aflame by stray spark. Inside, Cersei retreated into throne room, clutching Joffrey, mad with fear. Sansa and Arya burst with hound, swords at ready. Cersei raised dagger. But Sandor stood between, eyes on flame outside. He refused die for anyone's throne. He dragged Cersei away while girls ran. By dawn, battle ceased. Tywin captured, taken by Robb's outriders, his army scattered. Stannis wounded but alive, he stormed up ramp to hold fast. City near ruin but not burned wholly. Ned hobbled, wounds bound, climbed steps of Baelor's sept with Barristan at side. Bells rang new song, wolf, stag, and crescent beating lion roar. Small folk gathered, faces streaked soot, but hope flickered. Inside throne room, Tyrion sat with broken helm in lap, regarding twisted throne with exhausted eyes. He nodded when Ned entered, flanked by daughters. "I've no wish for this chair," he said. "Take it. Decide fate quickly before more blood spills." Stannis swept in, jaw clenched, Melisandre behind. Robb stood too, mud splattered. Council formed on ruined marble. Stannis claimed by law, Robb's hearts of north, Ned's caution, Tyrion's cunning, Sansa's plea for mercy. While they debated, bells tolled once more. Distant, deep. Raven soared through shattered window, landing before Ned. It bore ribbon of ice-blue wax. Letter from Bran. Wait. He broke seal. Words crisp. Cold winds rise. Wall needs guard. Night watch dwindles. I see dead walkers. Father, realm must unite, or winter wins. Ned's breath hitched. He passed message to Stannis, to Tyrion, to Robb. Silence cloaked hall heavier than ash. "Whatever our quarrels," Ned said, voice low yet carrying, "this is but prelude. The true enemy marches from the north, not south." He looked at Iron Throne, twisted metal of conquest. Who sits there matters less than whether the wall still stands when darkness falls. Stannis gripped letter, knuckles white. Robb stared at father, memory of direwolf and snow in eyes. Tyrion exhaled long. Melisandre's gaze burned. The great other stirs. All turned to her. She knelt, crimson gown pooling. The prince that was promised must unite light and dark. Perhaps not a prince. Perhaps a wolf. Ned felt weight of many fates converge. He thought of Bran's candle in storm. "Then let us hammer swords into watchtowers," he said softly. Outside, smoke thinned. Dawn's first true light streamed through broken spires, washing Iron Throne in pale gold. The war of lions and wolves paused upon precipice of greater night, and far away in God's wood of Winterfell, Bran Stark opened eyes to birthing sun, whispering in voice of wind through leaves. "We are not yet done." "Yeah. One on she, I." PGSQL. The faint, resin-tinged smoke of smoldering timbers drifted through the vast, shattered halls of the Red Keep, like the incense of a ruinous rite. Sunshafts razored in through window wounds in the walls, igniting motes of ash to brief, lambent life before they settled across cracked flagstones. Crimson drapes lay torn and scorched, tangled among chandeliers that had fallen and twisted into spidery heaps of bronze. Rubble groaned under the heel of every footstep, and what had been the seat of a dynasty now resembled the battered hull of a once proud warship, listing in a silent harbor. Here and there, the stone still pulsed with banked heat from the night's wildfire bloom, so that even when the dawn's first true light washed gold across the realm, the air in this chamber tasted of copper and cinders and redemption bought too dearly. Ned Stark stood near the blasted maw where a stained glass window had been, the early glow touching the silver in his hair and the fresh bandage on his arm. Catelyn lingered a pace behind, eyes fastened upon the throne itself. It towered still, twisted swords and fused steel, smoke rising from the backrest like some vast black heart, yet unwilling to cease beating. Crow feathers littered the dais. Many of various little birds had scurried through here at dawn, scattering a murder of scavengers that had tried to perch where kings dreamed. Sir Barristan Selmy knelt alone beside the throne's base, speaking soft words that no ear save the dead and the Seven might hear. Robb entered from a side archway, gray wind at his heel, rain-matted fur-burning auburn in the sunlight. Dust swirled around his boots as he halted, absorbing that scene. The throne, the survivors, the broken hall, and the weight of it pushed his shoulders a fraction lower. Far across marble strewn with spent arrows and trampled banners, Stannis Baratheon gazed out at the river blazing gold beneath the rising sun. His sword, Lightbringer, dangled loose at his side, trailing a thin trickle of flame along the edge. Whether sorcery or tribute to showmanship none could say, but its glow flickered where the torch sconces had guttered out. Melisandre stood half a step into his shadow. One of her slender hands rested over her own heart, red silk sleeves licking at her wrist like tongues of promise. She watched Ned, not her lord. Tyrion Lannister, face bruised, nose still leaking a reluctant trickle of blood, sat cross-legged on a broken bench beneath a toppled column. He turned a shard of burnt crystal between thumb and forefinger, eyeing the scattered survivors with a private calculation that looked not so different from prayer. Beside him, the hound leaned against a shattered merlin, helm and crook of his elbow, burn-puckered features darker than ever in the half-light. His gaze followed little but the doorways, a restless mastiff waiting for a command. Sansa and Arya stood on the lowest step of the dais, wild-eyed sisters clutching each other's hands. Their clothes were smoke-stained, hair still smelling of charred pitch. Arya kept needle out, point resting lightly on the floor. Sansa's free hand shook as she subtlety smoothed her torn skirts, but in those blue eyes Ned read resilience, and in Arya's flinty stare he saw the savage breadth of all their tomorrows. High above them a bell, half melted by wildfire, let out a soft mournful clang as the morning wind found it through a ruptured cupola. An invisible hush fell with that note. Then Ned cleared his throat, the scrape loud as a sword leaving scabbard in the hush. "My lords," he began, his rough voice carrying, "and my ladies, our quarrel was paid for in blood last night, and yet the dawn tells us the price is not settled." He lifted Bran's raven note, worn edges trembling in the swirl of rising heat. "The wall is thin as paper, the night's watch few. Winter marches, and the dead behind it care nothing for who wears a crown of swords." Stannis turned from the view, blue eyes like winter seas. "The law still cares. A realm without rightful king is a body without head. I will not let these wights you conjure serve as cloak for treason. Nubbo. And I will not see more children orphaned while we bicker over titles." Ned answered, quieter. He glanced to Sansa and Arya, then toward Tyrion. "The realm's coin is bled dry, its small folk starved. We will bleed more yet if we wait for parchments to crown us." Tyrion tossed the shard, caught it. "It may surprise you, Lord Stark, but I have no taste to return Lannister banners to King's Landing. Not for many turns of the moon, at least. My sister is snake enough. Last night's debacle proves her fangs are poison. Let the lions limp back to Casterly Rock and nurse their wounds. As for coin," he huffed, "my father's vaults open only to my father's whim, and I doubt they'll heed my knock." "Tywin is prisoner now," Robb cut in, stepping closer. His mail and gambeson were streaked a cruel brown. "Our outriders weakened his remaining guard when they took him at the Mander Ford. He rides north in irons. Without their lord, the western host shreds." He looked to Stannis. "Crown is moot until we decide how to answer winter. If you must be king at the wall." "Answer." Melisandre's lips moved, tracing some silent prayer. Lightbringer guttered at the mention of cold. She whispered, "The fire that brings dawn is not kindling for negotiation." Barristan rose, joints popping. "The wall is part of the realm," he said dignified. No knighted man can ignore the oaths our grandfathers swore before it. Then, eyes on Stannis, he added. Kings guard the living, not their own glory. Stannis' jaw hardened. He looked down at his sword, perhaps expecting its furnace glow to refute them. Yet the flame seemed to dim, in answer to none but the morning. The north is far, he growled. Supplies, ships, men, all spent here. How do you carry armies across half the kingdom with winter at our heels? From the ruined archway emerged Davos Seaworth, cloak damp with river mist. Wind carries ships more swiftly than men march, he said. Dragonstone's fleet stands ready. His plain words balanced on the edge of humility and challenge. Send sailors ahead, fetch grain from White Harbor. Pick up any Southron volunteers for the watch. The Fox of Fair Isle even. They say he is too proud to kneel to Lannister or Stark alike, but the dead make no man proud. Them sabizla. And what of the capital in our absence? Tyrion asked, arching a bandaged brow. A throne stripped of gold, bereft of banners, and defended by a boy no one heeds, except the pyromancers, bless their charred souls. Walk away, and we invite Dorne or the Iron Islands to crown themselves over our bones. There is a solution, came a new voice, cracked and tremulous. Grand Maester Pycelle shuffled from behind a support pillar, beard singed, eyes watery. A regent, someone neutral to guard the court while armies march. You are no neutral, Arya snarled before Ned could open his mouth. The blade of needle tapped once on rock, as if to punctuate. You brewed winter rose petals into Robert's cup. You let Cersei steal his seal. You'll have no chains left if I have a say. Pycelle's jowls quivered. The child lies. But Tyrion's laughter rolled. The child sees. He folded arms. Very well. Let us indeed name a regent. One without banners of his own to wave. What say you, Ned Stark? He jerked his chin. Will you sheathe your northern honor long enough to hold this nest of vipers, while the vipers' fangs march north? Catelyn stepped forward. My lord husband left Winterfell in rightful hands once. He can hold a city. But will the city hold him? She met Ned's eyes. I will stand with him. Red light from the half-collapsed windows caught the high comb of Catelyn's hair as she said it, and something of that fierce Tully resolve moved across the room. Ned saw the flame reflect in Stannis' eyes, in Barristan's, in Tyrion's, in the Hound's one quick frown. Even Melisandre seemed to weigh it. Regent Ned Stark, Tyrion said, bowing with theatrical flourish. Someone hand him the steward's keys before he flees for the snow. If the realm consents, Ned replied with a tone that asked nothing yet demanded all. Silence again. Then Stannis sheathed the Lightbringer so sharply sparks flew. So be it. Lord Eddard Stark will hold King's Landing with what men remain. The crown's debt to house Baratheon will be paid in full once the dead are cast back into myth. Tyrion scoffed. We will carve that promise in stone, I'm sure. On dragon's glass, Ned muttered. And thus was it settled. Nearly. One matter remained to bleed. The twisting figure hunched on Tyrion's broken bench. The Hound shifted, as if sniffing wind for ambush, then stepped forward and spoke for the first time. The Queen has fled. Half the gold cloaks still lick her boots. They'll test this new Stark rule, sure as dog piss on a fresh corpse. Ned exhaled through his nose. I'll not let King's Landing unravel while we fortify the north. He turned to Tyrion. You know the city's hidden teeth. Will you remain in his hand under my regency? The realm may still need a Lannister to parley with the West. Vain. Tyrion's eyes widened, perhaps with genuine surprise. He flicked blood from his nostril, considered. An unbound dwarf beside an unbending wolf? The jokes will be worse than the council sessions. His sardonic smile slowly flattened. But I will remain. For the sake of the realm, and Sansa's singing lessons, he added, tipping an imaginary cup to her. Sansa managed the ghost of a curtsy. There were still scrolls to ink, ravens to loose, treaties to draft. Entire books of them, in fact. But the shape of the war, of the wars, had pivoted. Stannis would ride north with Davos and Melisandre at his back. Robb would lead the battered but victorious Northern Riverlord host along the neck. fortifying holdfasts each dawn. The Reachmen, their green banners scorched by the loss of Renly, would return south to quell rebellion and put their grain behind winter's wall. Mace Tyrell's price for now was a promise of influence in whatever council shaped the new realm. And Ned Stark, with Catelyn and the survivors of the northern lot that yet drew breath, would bind the heart of the kingdom, like sinew in a broken bone, praying it would knit before the cold set in. 3 days later, the surviving pyromancers were sent from the city in irons, ordered north to mine Nater and carve stone for the watch. Tyrion's idea, though Ned insisted they be granted fair rations and sentinel oversight. The Alchemist's Guild tower now stood padlocked. Under Barristan's command, half the gold cloaks were resworn, their hearts weighed by trial of deeds past. The other half were stripped of tabards, consigned to labor along river levees, the same levees that had become charred ditches after the wildfire surge. In those same 3 days, Baelish's escape was confirmed. His trail from Harrenhal had bled cold east of Maidenpool, where a fisher's boy claimed to see a pale lord with a silver tongue-board, with a silver tongue-board, a rust-eaten cog bound for Bravos. Jojen reeds, messenger ravens tracked whispers of mockingbird marks in the fingers, wine cellars in salt pans, and sealed ports of Myr, but nothing could be seized upon. Ned locked those scrolls in an ironwood chest and told himself that some snakes slip holes only to reappear when fire coaxed them out. Sansa, in clean noble attire at last, spent mornings assisting septas with the wounded. There were so many. At night, she sang to children who could not sleep for nightmares of green flame. Arya drilled with Brienne and the Hound among the dragon skulls beneath the keep, each day asking when she might ride to Winterfell. Ned promised soon, though in his heart he knew the roads would be dangerous until Stannis' southern levies had swept them clear. Bran's letters came twice a week, each more vivid. One spoke of a stranger at the night fort, a pale giant in rag-stitched cloak who watched the gate, then melted like dawn mist. Another told of dreams where Robb knelt at a broken weirwood and shadows and crowns of ice circled him chanting in rusted voices. Lewin's assurances read calm, but Ned felt the tremor behind every word. He penned orders for more seasoned rangers to bolster Castle Black. Lord Commander Jorah Mormont responded that volunteers were scarce but he'd welcome any. Stannis' fleet would ferry them north when sails caught the right winds. At dusk on the 7th day, the first joint council of the Regency convened in what had been the Tower of the Hand, now scorched, but serviceable. Ned presided in plain wool, direwolf pin at collar. Tyrion sat left, a ledger open, quill flicking. Ser Barristan to his right, white cloak new washed. Davos spoke for Stannis, Brienne for the Reach, and Grand Maester Pycelle, his chains diminished by half for past treasons, read minutes with a tremble that might have been either contrition or palsy. They debated grain tariffs for Riverland townships rescued, the logistics of resettling orphan refugees in holdfasts across the Crownlands, coin for rebuilding towers along the Blackwater. Tyrion conjured taxes on silk and gemstones. Whimsy for lords can feed small folk, he claimed, while Ned championed remission of debts for farmers who'd lost fields to Lannister torches. Sometimes they clashed, the wolf and the lion, but the fury in it was the fury of whetstone against blade rather than blade against flesh. Sparks flew, plans sharpened. Outside, the people, ragged, aching, nonetheless alive, began to sweep char and ash from stoops. Children splashed in puddles where green flame had once danced. Small prayers drifted up through the sunrise from the broken great sept. And though stockades still groaned under the weight of traitors and murders result in hasty tribunals, though the Queen Regent roamed the shadows of dread someplace beyond the Watcher's sight, a breath of possibility hung in King's Landing's spring air. On the 10th dawn, ravens arrived bearing ice-rimmed seals from Eastwatch and Shadow Tower both. Each reported dead things stirring in the haunted forest, sightings of pale hunters with blue eyes, packs of corpses following whites like shepherded sheep. Roadless gorges long clogged by wind-blown snow, now cleaved under the footfalls of beasts unseen since the long night. Jorah Mormont wrote his letters as bluntly as a mace stroke. Send men, send fire, send the realm. Ned laid those parchments upon the council table, and the room fell to breathless hush. Tyrion's quill stilled. Brienne's eyes widened. Even Barristan's stalwart poise slackened in sorrow. Davos made the sign of the seven-pointed star, though his lost fingers stung in phantom protest at old superstitions. Pycelle's beard trembled a second time that week, and Ned spoke in that quiet. "The raven's wings are our glass. Every grain of sand after this falls toward a night none have ever survived." His gaze met each pair of eyes. "There will be no second dawn if we answer too late." In the weeks that followed, the true forging began. Stannis' black sails bore south for shipments of dragonglass said to sleep in the volcanoes of the smoking sea. Melisandre claimed the fires sang of weapons wrought before stone remembered iron. Davos steered warships up the narrow sea to ferry grain from the mighty storehouses of Old Town and Highgarden. Brienne took the remnants of the Rainbow Guard to recruit free companies, weaving oaths of valor rather than coin. Barristan rebuilt the King's Guard with swords drawn from Dorne, the Reach, even the quiet Vale of Arryn. 5 knights who could stand shoulder to shoulder on the ice if need be. Tyrion coaxed the Iron Bank of Braavos into forgiving half the crown's oldest debt by promising them first trade rights in a realm not swallowed by winter. He reopened the Guildhall of Alchemists, not for wildfire but saltpeter and chalk. New black powder bombs could fell trees for palisades north fast enough to keep pace with the undead tide. Or so the dwarfish steward boasted. He placed Emberlys, a maester of lice, who believed in engineering more than the Seven, in charge of design. Sansa, once broken-voiced with fear, chaired small councils of tailors and tanners, making woolen cloaks and fur-lined boots for the Night's Watch and for orphans alike. Stark woolings the small folk began calling the effort, and they touched foreheads when they saw her pass in the yard. Arya sparred daily with Brienne until bruises bloomed like summer berries along her arms. She did not care. The Hound taught her dirty tricks of the pit, how to strike a knee inside plate with the hilt, how to spit dirt into an enemy's eyes. And on nights when moonstones rimmed the clouds, she climbed the highest broken tower and whispered to Nymeria. Across the distances, sometimes she felt her direwolf running through leaf-bare woods, flanks heaving. Sometimes she thought she could smell the snows. The moon crawled across the sky, thrice waxing and waning, while Ned and Tyrion soldiered city and realm together day by day. The Queen's supporters were rooted out, their coin confiscated for the war effort. Tywin Lannister, bound but unbowed, was sent north under heavy guard. He would stand before Robb to answer for Riverland's blood. Ned held his trial in absentia. The council decreed he would spend his life building fortifications on Bear Island, far from gold mines. One dawn, a raven with broken feather arrived in Ned's solar. Its message was 3 words in Bran's hand, "Beyond the wall." No seal, no context, yet dread pooled in Ned's gut. He called council that night, voice grave. "My son warns us again." Davos swore quietly. Barristan pressed palm to sword pommel. Tyrion, somewhat pale at that, muttered, "We've bent every copper to this venture. Still the gods ledger the debt." He looked at Ned with haunted respect. "If we lose, every jest I ever made will turn in its grave." "We do not lose," Catelyn said, startling them. She had come in silent, the embers of the hearth behind her gilding her profile. "We do not lose because our children will not let us. Bran sees roads we do not. Arya cuts through walls we think unbreakable. Robb wields the north. Sansa holds the hearts of the people. We will meet our children at the end of the world, or we will die as they live." She exhaled. Either is victory enough. And there Ned Stark felt the old certainty flourish in his chest again, like frost-touched heather stubborn under snow. They could win, though winning meant sacrifice beyond the measure of any single house. He met each counselor's eyes in turn. No one spoke against the tide. Plans turned north-northwest. Galleys loaded with stone and steel. Sacks of winter grain were hoisted from Highgarden's hidden silos, and archers from Storm's End marched in step with sellswords from the stepstones. The Hound drilled green boys in the courtyard with Brienne, snarling them into hardened shields. Tyrion's black powder devices thundered tests beyond the city walls, startling goat herds upon the King's Road. Sansa relinquished the final bolt of Myrish lace to transform it into mittens for a boy half dead of frostbite in the street. And Ned, each dawn, walked the scorched hall where the Iron Throne remained, unclaimed, unsat, its fused blades always warmed by the rising light. He would stare at it in silence, remembering Robert's laughter, remembering the children who had died for seats and crowns, and promising himself the wall would not follow that pyre. Then, at last, the ravens returned from Eastwatch with wind-stiff feathers, one word this time, across all messages. Attack. The council took only minutes to decide. Stannis' fleet set sail within the hour, to ply waves north, along ragged coastline, while Renly's old cavalry, now under Garland Tyrell's command, charged up the King's Road. Robb marshaled northern host at Moat Cailin, forging mails of bronze and weirwood lamella girt with steel. Ned appointed Tyrion temporary steward of King's Landing, left Barristan and half the King's Guard to stand sentinel, and rode out beneath a banner of direwolf and stag entwined, a new symbol yet untested. In the yard before the Blackwater Gate, he embraced Sansa and Arya both. Sansa kissed his cheek, whispered something fierce and small. "Bring Bran home." Arya pressed Needle's hilt into his hand. He pressed it back. "Keep it," he said. "You'll guard the city better than any walls." Catelyn joined him astride a pale mare, cloak flapping like river water. Together they led the host. The hound flanked, helm clenched in scarred fist. He claimed he had unfinished business at the wall, with cold and flame both. Melisandre stood atop the rampart, eyes blazing red behind wind-tossed auburn strands, chanting to a dawn that promised only snow clouds. Tyrion watched from a balcony, raising goblet though he sipped nothing. His smile was wry and thin, but hope thrummed there too. And so the wolves and stags and lions, yes, even lions now, for a small cadre of western swords, had sworn to Tyrion and so to the realm, marched in ragged chorus to the rhythm of hooves and creaking leather. Columns stretched across the repaired bridge, shimmering in late autumn's haze, winding like steel serpents over rolling brown hills. Somewhere far ahead, in the hidden valleys of the north, 1,000 watchfires waited to blaze against the first sight of undead eyes. Above them all, a solitary raven wheeled. Bran's sight rode with it, searching the horizon where white shapes moved through thinning pines. He felt summer's breath frost in his own lungs. He sensed Nymeria's pack tearing west through the neck, 100 strong. He tasted snow before it fell. And across the margin of that dream he saw his father's banner catching an updraft, rising like a promise. Winter had not yet won,